Cause I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burn down the road. Yeah, I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burning down the road. I'm a wheel-born baby. This life never gets old. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Oh, take a ride now on the Wheelburner Express. Yeah, Wheelburner Express, baby.
Sorry, I got I'm watching Motobomb right now. I gotta stop doing this. Here, those boys got a pretty good show going on over there. Pretty good show. Hold on, let me just quickly. There we go. Oh, here we go. There we go. My apologies. Good to see everybody. Romunsky, good to Rom Skunky. I don't know why I keep calling you Romunsky. I don't know, man. I don't know. Tennessee, good to see you, brother. Kamal, always a pleasure. 2-4. Guys, I'll be right back. Right back. There's something right there I just got to grab. You like the back of that seat? Oh, damn. I don't know where you guys are at, but it is frickin', well, I say it's frickin' cold. It's like -2 in Strathmore, Alberta right now, which is what, about 28, 29, something like that in Fahrenheit. Damn, it is cold. What's the topic today? Well, what's the topic today? Jerome Jones, good to see you. Jason Phelps, good morning. We're gonna go with the simple topic. It's not a simple topic, actually. If you're in the trucking business, if you're an owner operator, or if you're a company guy and you're thinking of making the jump to say owner operator, and like I always say, that if you're a company guy, Actually, I'm actually hot. Hold on. If you're a company guy and you're thinking of making that jump into the owner operator end of the pool, um, get your 3 to 5 years in as your company driver, as a company driver. Learn the trucking business, and the trucking business basically is defined as this is what we do, right? We learn the lanes, we learn how, we learn our get some driving skill and get some wheel time in. Um, and we get dispatched, we go from here, we pick up there, we get loaded, we learn all of that, and we get loaded, we pick up, then we drive wherever we're driving, 200, 300, 500, 700 miles, whatever you drive. And then you're going to go and you're going to deliver. All right. And then you deliver and then you reload and do that for a few years, right? Learn learn the lanes, learn where you are, learn the country, learn your way around the cities, learn bypasses, shortcuts, everything like that. Try to get as much of that as you can. And I always suggest that, you do, 3 years minimum, 5 years is ideal. And then when you're ready to make the jump to owner operator, you've already got that part of the business partially or mostly figured out. Invader, damn good to see you, Donnie, man. How the hell are you? 16 degrees here. I attempted the owner operator thing running my own carrier. And if I ever went back into trucking, I'd stay an LTL company driver. You know what? That's good advice. That is good advice this day and age right now, Invader. That really is. Quinn, good to see you. But what I was talking about, 2-4, damn, 15 here, going to 25. Well, you're lucky, man. It's I think I'm only supposed to hit 10 or 11 today. It's it's chilly, which actually not that chilly for us. Like I took the dog for a walk, and this is what I'm wearing. I'm just wearing a hoodie with a t-shirt underneath it. So, but then when you're ready to make that jump, right? You want to make that jump from the company orientated way of doing business of what we get into our heads and what we do. And a lot of guys do it for a lot of years. And you want to make the jump to owner operator. Then that's the business. You're going to have to learn some of the business of trucking. The trucking business is what we do. The business of trucking is all of the intricacies that go on behind the scenes that nobody knows about unless you're doing it. The business of trucking is all of that enables you or enables that truck to be able to do what it's doing. People think it's so easy. Just they look at us as truck drivers and go, okay, what's so hard about that? You go over to this warehouse, you pick up the crap there, you load it on the truck, and then you drive and then you deliver it over there. There is so much more that goes on behind the scenes. It's not just a matter of what that truck is doing, it's how and what's going on behind the scenes that's enabling that truck to do what it's doing. And the trucking business, like I said, is not that difficult. Look around. There's a million company drivers out there. There's millions of them. Actually, there's not millions of them. There's only, I think, what, 250 or 275,000 truck drivers in the United States, and I think there's what, 1/10 that in Canada. I'm in a truck right now, Rory. Hammer down. Keep the wheels on the ground, the roof under the bridges, and don't take nothing home to mom in the ditches, baby. But what we're going to talk about just a little bit, we're like, because I'm not going to say that I am the end all be all and that I know everything about this business, because I don't. There's a lot that goes on that even I don't know. But luckily for me, I'm surrounded by some pretty smart people. If I ever need advice on something, when it came to the trucking, the business part of it, as the owner operator part of it, or the carrier part of it, I've got some people that I can reach out to, and I will get some good advice, or at least what I think is good advice. Oh, I'm done with coffee. I've had a couple of coffees already this morning, and I was gonna crack a pop, but it's only 10 to 8 my time. So believe it or not, this is the first time you're ever gonna see me do this. I'm drinking a can of Perrier water. Just I got to get more water into me. Is it a 3.6 million truck drivers in the US? Okay, Donnie, then maybe it's 250,000 in Canada or 275,000 in Canada. Actually, you know what? That didn't sound right to me when I was saying it. Thank you for the correction. That's the one good thing about doing lives is that you know what? There is always somebody with a Googleatron standing by to to correct you at any given time. So what we're talking about, okay, so we've already just briefly discussed of what the trucking business is. It's what allows us to go from here to there, do what we're doing, right? Picking up, driving, dropping off, picking up, driving, you know, e-logs, all that kind of shit. But what would you classify as the business of trucking? What is that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know about? You know, and a lot of it has to do with cost, right? It's cost incurrence of what goes on behind the scenes because yeah, people think we just get it in the truck, we turn the key, we put some fuel in the truck, and we just drive. Okay, well, that truck has license plates. You know, those license plates for whatever state you're in or province you're in cost money. I know for a fact that a set of PRP plates in Ontario, I don't know what the cost is in Alberta. Every province is different and probably the same in the US. Every state's a little bit different. But I know for a fact that the PRP plates, and we call them PRP, PRP plates mean they're out of country, out of province. You can go anywhere. You can go Canada or the US with PRP plates. And with PRP plates, that is an annual cost of $3,500 for your PRP plates, and you renew them every year. So there's one cost. You've got your IFTA. That is your fuel and road tax and all of that kind of shit that goes on. So every state or province that you go in, now we have an e-log that keeps track of that for us of the computer. So as we cross state lines, we learn, you know, the computer keeps track of, okay, I've just gone from Ontario into Manitoba. The truck recognizes or the computer recognizes. So it's tracking all of the mileage that I do in Ontario. And then it logs that. And then when they have to pay the IFTA on the fuel and road taxes and everything like that, they can just pull that up onto the computer or from the computer, and the computer will say, okay, this truck in this 30-day period, it went to this many provinces and states, and it did this many miles in each of those states, and then you have to submit your tax and road tax and your fees and everything to each state or province accordingly. We used to have to keep track of that. Back in the day, some guys did it with paper. I always used just one of those mini tape recorders, right? So if I started my trip, if I started my week, say in Ontario, I would log on my very first day on my logbook. I'd log the mileage that I'm starting at, and then I would make just a recording. Ontario starting mileage, blah 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 blah, whatever it is, 755 miles or 755,000. That's what my odometer is reading, right? 755,000 miles, and then I would drive in Ontario, do whatever I'm doing, and then as soon as I was crossing into Manitoba, I would just pick up my tape recorder and go Manitoba provincial line, Manitoba provincial line, mileage 757,000 miles. So there'd be like a 2,000 mile difference between where I started and when I crossed the line. So then at the end of the week, we can keep track of, okay, he was in Ontario for this amount of miles. Then look at this point here, he crossed in, and then you put it on your logbook as well when you're crossing back then provincial and state lines. And that's how we kept track of it. Nowadays, the computers keep track, right? Nowadays, computers keep track of all of that. I don't have to do, I don't drive, but as a carrier, I don't have to keep track of any kind of mileage or any kind of anything like that. The e-log does it for you. Big Road does it. Motive does it. They all do it for you now. And then you can just print it off every 30 days or whenever you're required to do it, and submit your taxes and money and whatever accordingly. So there's that sticker that you have to put on your truck. That's a cost incurred. So you're at license. You've got, you know, these are just basics. You've got license plates that are $3,500 a year. You've got your IFTA stickers, and you're paying tax and everything like that. Then you've got what's the biggest one? I know the biggest incurrence aside from fuel in Canada. Now this is going to be different in the US because you guys pay significantly less for insurance, but in Canada, our biggest expense yearly, aside from fuel, is usually our insurance. Okay, our truck and trailer insurance. So now you are, you're shopping, you're doing your homework, you're shopping around trying to find the best insurance. Then you get your insurance. So then now you're paying your insurance. Insurance for a truck. The last time I was paying truck and trailer full insurance, my own authority, everything like that, all wrapped up, truck and trailer. It was coming in just south of 30 grand. I was about 29,000 and something dollars for both, and that's yearly. You pay that yearly. Now, obviously, as a new carrier, you're going to pay a little bit more, and probably for the first 3 years, at least 3 years in Canada, you're going to pay the same rate for the first 3 years in Canada, and then if you don't accrue any CVR points, you don't take any tickets, you don't take any overweights, you don't take any shit, your rate is supposed to drop. I can't honestly say that is the case, that happens, because I know guys right now that they've been trucking and they've got clean, are fairly clean, records with their fleet, and every year their insurance is going up. So I haven't played the insurance game in a few years. I don't do that anymore. Let somebody else pay the insurance. But if you are, there's another behind the scenes thing. People bitch and complain about, oh, I pay $75 a month, or I pay $150 a month, or whatever it is I'm paying a month for my car insurance. Try insuring a frickin' truck, right? It's ridiculous. Now, like I said, in the US, the price is significantly different. It's significantly lower. 9,000 a year was my last insurance quote before I closed business. That's for truck and trailer, right? Right? Truck and trailer, Invader. And that's what I'm saying, right? Part of the reason that you guys have significantly less insurance is you have more carriers, you have more trucks, you have more shit out on the road. And it's the same. And the example I'll flip it to real quick, and we're not going to talk about it, but just real quick, is cell phones. Like, we pay so much more for cell phone servicing in Canada than you guys do in the US, because there's 200 million or 300 million cell phones in the US. They only need to charge $50 a month because that's all they need to charge, right? Here, they're charging you 120 a month for the basic necessities on a cell phone. Why? Because there's only maybe 10 million cell phones in Canada. That's kind of, and it's the same falls in on insurance, right? You guys get better rates on insurance because the insurance companies are making so much, they're generating much more revenue on numbers than on quantity rather than quality. Like here, we don't pay we pay much more because we don't have as much. And the insurance carriers, of course, they're not out here to help you. They're not out here doing this for you, for your insurance. They're here to make money. End of the line, bottom line. So then, okay, so now we've got, what do we start with? We started with plates. We went to we got your IFTA stickers. Most of us would have to run a New York Hut sticker. I think that's pretty much defunct now. I don't think you have to run the sticker. You still pay it, but I don't think you have to have the sticker on your truck anymore for New York Hut. And then after, so you've got that, you've got your plate, you get plates, your stickers, your insurance, and then what's next? Right? What's next? What's the next biggest expense? Well, you've got three biggies right here. You've got your truck payment, right? People don't realize that as well. They just think that they see the name on the side of the truck and they go, oh, that guy bought that truck. Well, you know what? That guy's making payments on that truck, or the carrier is making payments on that truck. That is a very large expense. If you've got a $2,000 a month truck payment, say that's $2,000, including all your interest and your taxes or whatever that's $24,000, give or take, right? $24,000 a year for a truck payment. People think those numbers are astronomical. Like the very, very, very first time, way, way, way back when, the very first time when I bought my first truck, I think my very first truck, my truck payment was like, I don't know, like 900 something bucks a month. And I was talking to my dad about it, who really wasn't in the trucking business. I was talking to my cat about it. She's not happy about it either, but I was talking to my dad about it. And when I told him that, my monthly truck payment was 900 bucks and that I was spending $700 or $800 a week in fuel, and the numbers for the general public numbers they freak it. They'd have no idea what kind of numbers and what kind of math we're dealing with out here. You know, when you're paying in current days like this, you're paying, you know, your excuse me, you're paying, you know, your monthly truck payment. Say it's, you know, or $2,000. There's guys out here paying $4,000 a month. Now I couldn't see that. I could never fathom having to make a $4,000 a month truck payment. I can't see it, and I would never, ever, ever do it. And you know, I've always been in a position that I've been able to sell the last truck and make enough money on it to put a substantial, hefty down payment on the next truck, so that, you know, my $150,000 truck pay or purchase on the truck, I'm only having to finance, say, 70 grand of that, right? Because I've got a down payment. Sorry, Tennessee. I'll get to the comments real quick. I've got this all lined up in my head, and if I start bouncing back and forth, I'll kind of mess this up. I will get to your comments. Believe me, they are important to me. So you got your now you're at your truck payment. And if it doesn't matter whether it's me as a single owner operator, or me as a small fleet owner that maybe has 2 or 3 trucks, or whether I'm a carrier, most of us have truck payments. There's some sort of payment going on there. After that, you've got your fuel. Like I said, your fuel is a huge thing. Your truck payment, and then you've got your salaries, right? The people, I don't know what people think of that truck drivers make, but most truck drivers out there, unless they're working with a shady owner or a shady company, a good truck driver right now in Canada can average anywhere between 85 and 100 grand a year, and that's without killing themselves. Like, I'm talking, that's without absolutely, you're not having to kill yourself, and you're not going to drop dead. So now you're having to incur, now you're as a fleet owner or a truck owner, you're incurring another expense. It's technically not an expense, but it is, as in a salary. And then you've got all of the other little shit that goes on, right? There's your maintenance, schedule, right? You can't just wait till something breaks before you fix shit. And there's a lot of guys, and there were times in my career as an owner operator that, you know what, when the economy's good, we're making boatloads of money. But when the economy's bad, man, you're driving along you're looking at the e-log in this, and then you're looking at your phone over here at your bank account in this hand. It gets a little sketchy, and you know, you got to have yourself maintenance. You can't just fix it once it breaks. There's preventative maintenance. So, you know, you have to have money on hand for that. People don't realize, the general public has no idea that these commercial vehicles literally take barrel loads of money just to keep operating. Never mind operating, profit, making a profit, but they take literally barrels and barrels of money just to keep operating, just to keep that thing on the road. And these are all the expenses, and there's so many more. You know, there's not just maintenance. I'm just touching on the big ones, right? The maintenance, the fuel, the salary, the truck payment, the insurance, your plates, your stickers. What are we at? There's 8 right there, and there's probably another 8 easily that I'm not talking about here. But people don't get it, and that is the business of trucking. The trucking business is what we do. The trucking business is what we do. The business of trucking is what we do to be able to do the trucking business, to be able to get that truck to do what it's doing right now. And it just costs barrel loads of money. And you sit there and you think, okay, for example, last year my truck generated $326,000 and whatever cents. And people go, holy fuck, you made $326,000. No, I didn't make $326,000. The truck generated $326,000. Out of that, I had to pay, my truck payment was $2,300, all taxes in. So I paid what, $29,000 that year for my truck payment. I paid, whatever my fuel bill was for that other year. I think it was about $55,000. around there for that year. So, you got a $55,000 fuel bill, you've got a $29,000 truck payment, you've got your insurance. Now, luckily for me, I was with KBD, and they covered a portion of my insurance, and I had to cover a portion of it. But I only had to cover a quarter of the insurance, which came out to $400 a month. Believe it or not, $400 a month. But now that carrier is self-insured, and they have fleet insurance anyway, so their rate is significantly less than, say, I would get if I went out on my own. So I was paying $400 a month, $100 a week, or $400 a month for insurance. And you think about, you add all these numbers up, and then there's my salary, right? I'm an incorporated business, and there's another expense. You've got to get yourself incorporated. You got to, pay for the incorporation. It's all done online now, and I don't think it costs that much. I think it's about $500, but you've got to get yourself incorporated. So then I got my salary, right? So I've got my salary on there. And then, again, you got plate stickers, fuel, blah, blah, blah. It is ridiculous. So when you make 326,000, or the truck generates $326,000 in a year, well over $100,000 of that is just on regular shit. And then you've got repairs, parts, and got your regular PMs and maintenance. I always budget. I always had a maintenance account somewhere, and somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 for the year, and that was just covering light bulbs, tires, oil changes, and shit, just stuff like that. Not major breakdowns, not going into the shop for repairs, just my regular maintenance. An oil change right now, or a full PM and an oil change right now, anywhere out here in Alberta and Ontario, you're north of $700 to $1,000. Depending on what you've done, what you do, if you add in the additives or bullshit like that. But let's just say, let's round that and make it a nice even number. You're at $1,000 for an oil change. Okay, I change my oil anywhere between every 25 and 30,000 miles. And so there's $1,000, right, every 6 to 7 weeks that I was paying just for oil changes. You blow a tire, you blow an airbag, you drop a drive line, you're getting into significant numbers. You drop a transmission, $18,000 on a new transmission. You do serious work with, you have to get serious work done on your engine. You could be anywhere between $1,500 for a small little tweak, or right up to $45,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a complete replacement. The costs are staggering. So people lose their shit, and they lose their minds, and they go, okay, you truck generated 300 something thousand dollars. I didn't make that. I didn't get to keep all of that. Myself as a business owner, I've got my salary, and that salary gets paid out of my business account into my personal account. It would get paid every 2 weeks. Where I was working at KBD, we invoiced them every week, and we got paid every Friday, which was good. We didn't have to do the 30-day, 90-day, 60 or 60-day, 90-day. They would pay us every week on every work, on every load and everything that we did. So that was actually nice, and that was a convenience, and that's partially another reason why I like to be leased onto a carrier. I didn't have to go. Invader was out there for years doing it on his own. And I don't know how many conversations I had with Donnie, and we're sitting there, and he's sitting there telling me that he had excess of $20-something thousand outstanding in billing. He's waiting for people to pay him. That was insane, and that's normal. That's normal, guys. That's absolutely normal. But to me, that's insane. I'm like, no, I'm not messing around with that. So when you take 326 and you take everything out of it, including my salary, that number is not like a huge, and that's how much, we don't have that much left over. It's like that. And as the economy is going, and inflation's going, and GDPs are getting out of hand, and all that kind of shit, this range of this is where you are, right? This is where the truck generated. This is the 300, let's just round it to 320,000. Okay. And this is where you are after everything is paid. And then you've got a nice big buffer in there. And that's profit, and that's where you take your money, and you can either take your company money and you can invest it into other things, or you can take your company money and invest it into your own company. That would be advisable first. You always invest into yourself first. update, upgrade, do this, maybe get more equipment, more trucks, whatever, and that's how you would get more equipment, more trucks on the road. But now the difference from being up here down to here, the down here, which is the cost of doing business, is no longer just down here. It is up here. So now we've only got that much in between now. Now there's still, and that's still a profit, but I don't have the ability with that much profit to go out and start buying three, four, five new trucks, right? Whereas before I did, I could have 3, 4 trucks running, drivers, salaries, paying their WCB, insurance, plates, all the way down the line. We don't get to keep that. And again, the general public just does not get it. They do not get it. That yeah, okay, these, if they hear a number like $300,000, they think we're rich, right? They think we're absolutely filthy rich. Now, if depending on how well you manage your money and how well you manage your business, you can be very comfortable. You know, you can be very comfortable. You're not living in poverty. You're not broke, or you don't have to be. You know, there are guys out here that are owner operators that are running statement to statement, and you know, one check engine light, and they're out of business. There's guys out here doing that. But if you're able to manage your business, not just your money, if you're able to manage your business, keep your variable costs under control, because your variable costs are costs that move. So for example, I'll give you the biggest one is your fuel. Your fuel is your biggest variable cost. It's not the same every single day of the year, or every single day, every single week, every single month. Your fuel varies. So you know, that's a variable cost, but it's your fixed costs that you need to keep under control. Your fixed costs are everything that is paid, that doesn't change. For example, your truck payment is a fixed cost. Your salary, in my case, would be a fixed cost. Insurance, fixed cost. Everything is a fixed cost. Your cell phone bill every month, that's a fixed cost. Your job as the business owner is to manage those. And it almost sounds like you have to be cheap, and you really do, because what you got to do is you have to get those fixed costs down as low as you possibly can, without endangering your business or taking shortcuts or cutting. You know, people people cut corners, and then somewhere down the line they pay for that. They pay for that, cutting that corner. So if you have to you have to find that line, find that very fine line. It's a razor thin line, believe me. You have to find that line of where you can get your fixed costs down to, and you're still able to do the business that you need to do safely. First of all, safely for yourself and everybody else around you. You know, it's incredible. Just the numbers are staggering, and the business behind it is staggering, and the mix of how the numbers allow us to do what we do. And then for us, example, at the end of the day, I'm not in business to break even. I want to make a profit. And when I say that, I'm talking about now my personal self, right? I draw a salary out of that business. There are other ways and other aspects of how I go about my business that I can pull money out of that business for myself to top up the salary. But you know, I have a salary, and the whole idea is to try to make as much money personally, just like anybody else. If you're a company driver, you want to work for, what do you want to work for? A company that's paying you 55 cents a mile? You want to work for a company that's paying you 65 cents a mile? I'm no different, right? Just because I'm working for myself, I'm an employee of my own company, I still want to make as much money personally as I possibly can. And so there's other ways that, you know, you find yourself a salary that puts you in a comfortable tax bracket. So you're not getting, you know, you're not paying tax, you're not getting screwed on tax. But then there are other ways as a company owner, as a business owner, that you can pull money out of that business and apply it to your personal life. And it doesn't get added on to your personal income. Those are for a whole nother day. We're not going to go into that. But again, that those costs there are those increments that you're pulling out of the business, that comes off of that 320,000 as well. So I've got my salary. Let's just I'm not gonna, doesn't matter. I'm not doing it anymore anyway. I don't I don't truck anymore, but let's just say my salary was $45,000, and I would, $45,000 in Canada, you think, oh my God, that's low. And it is low as a 45,000, but it keeps you in a very comfortable tax bracket. And then I would very simply use other aspects of the business to pull money out, that would top up my salary, to a significantly higher. But all of those costs, everything, salary, and all of we call them dividends, right? All of the dividends that you pull out of that business, that all comes off that top number of the $320,000. So at the end of the year, when you're sitting there and you're doing it, you're going, okay, $320,000, and all of these costs. And it's like I said, instead of being here having all your costs and this is what you generated and you've got all this nice comfortable buffer profit in there in between, we're now at a level now here where we're up here. So these dollars here, you are really, really, really watching. You're keeping. Before, we didn't necessarily have to keep. I did. I would keep an eye on all my expenses and all my costs and everything like that, and still kept everything under control. But if there was an expense or something that was incurred, you would just pay it and you'd just carry on business as usual. Now, when you're, instead of being from here to here, now when you're like this, when you take a big ticket item like a blown engine or a blown diff, or you twisted diff, or anything like that, that hurts. That buffer hurts because you don't have going from here to here like this. Okay, I've still got this after I pay for an engine. Now you blow an engine and you've only got, this is what you're generating, and this is where all your costs are, and this is your profit, or this is your, it's very, very difficult now. You have to absolutely watch with a microscope where your money is going. And then on top of that, you're fighting everybody else. Right? You're fighting the brokers trying to get the best load, your best rate. You're fighting with your insurance company trying to get your insurance down lower. You're fighting with if you're leased on with a company. And a lot of times I was leased on with a company. You're fighting with them for accessorial billings and extras and shit like that. And you got to watch all of it. You never can take your eye off the ball. You just absolutely can't take your eye off the ball. Okay, so we got 7 million comments. I am not reading every single one, but I'm just, Donnie's here, 2-4's here. I found being an owner operator stressful. You know what? So did I. And I've said it a million times, man. You are going to be very stressed out as an owner operator. If you're in this day and age, if you're an owner operator and you're not feeling the pressure, you're not feeling the stress, it's either you just don't give a shit or you're not doing things right. Mega Knight from Clash, our clans is up. Don't know what you're talking about. 1900 year appropriate plates in Missouri. So you were paying 1900, right? 35, man, for us. Now there's, of course, Invader. There's a exchange difference, right? 1900 American is probably close to 3,500 Canadian, give or take a couple of bucks. Now, good to see you, man. Mega Knight is peak. I think Knight and Swift are probably the biggest out there right now, and when they combined. Hit the like button, Tennessee. Thank you very much. Metal Gear is peak. Yeah, it's not bad. Dang, well, my insurance quote was on the 2015 Freightliner with 2022 Stoughton dry van. The last time I had my own insurance and I was paying my own insurance, I had a brand new, the Volvo was almost brand new. So I had, and that was in 2014. So say 2015 year, the 2015 year, truck and trailer on a brand new truck. And the trailer, was I think it was like a 2012 or a 2013, Retnauer. So it was fairly new as well, a 53-foot step deck, with a 10-1 movable spread and all the cabinets or the boxes and shit on it. And my insurance was 30 grand. It was stupid. CV, then here's some more costs. Quinn's kicking him out there right now. Your CVR yearly inspection. Nowadays, now in Ontario, your yearly annual inspection, it used to be $300. Right, $300, and if they found nothing wrong, you paid your $300. Now it's $1,500 fucking dollars because the ministry changed how it had to be done It's now $1,500 and your truck is in there. And this is just for the inspection. Never mind if they find anything wrong. Now your truck's in there. It's a minimum 8 hours. It's in there for 8 hours because not only do they pull the tires off and pull everything off now they have to take a picture of every component, and those pictures all have to be submitted to the ministry. Do you know how time consuming that is? And then as they're being inspected, so as they're inspecting the brakes on say the rear driver's side drive axle, right? They'd have to take a picture of the brakes, the drum, the pad, all the shit, the wear and tear, take a picture, submit it. Then they go to the next one, take a picture, submit it. And this is after they take all their measurements and all the shit. It's ridiculous. $1,500 for a goddamn inspection. And that's just if there's nothing wrong. I thought about doing what my dad did. Last trucking job he did was for post office. He made great money and it's dedicated routes, and you get paid twice from the truck company and the post office. Was he a company driver or was he an owner operator? Excuse me. Sorry, Tennessee. I'm way behind in comments. That's a good gig. You know, if you want to pay me twice for doing the job, I'll be happy to do one job and get paid twice for it. I know that the mail out here, I think there's 2 companies for Canada that pulls for Canada Post or pulls the mail for Canada Post, that move the mail around. I can't remember what the fucking companies were, honestly. But either way, I know that they pay well, right? They pay well because that truck's got to move rain, shine, snow, blizzard, tornado, hurricane, grizzly bear, whatever. This was 2006. He was making close to $3,200 a month. That's in 2006, and he was making $3,200 a month. That's pretty good. I was seriously considering getting a CNG truck, as where I live, CNG stations are plentiful, plus no after treatment systems. Wonder if there are any ops running CNG. I don't know. I don't know anybody running natural gas. Invader, I don't have a clue who's running natural gas. I don't know anybody is. I know we have a major carrier up in Canada called CAT, C-A-T. They're based out of, I think they're based out of Quebec, but they've got a couple of big yards, one in Napanee, Ontario. I think they got another one in Toronto. And I know that they converted a portion of their fleet to compressed natural gas to CNG. I'm not sure if they made it work. I think the problems they were having was, and this is just talking to a couple of their drivers, so I don't know from management level, but I think a couple of the problems they were having was, one, they were having problems with the long haul with the fueling, right? Maybe in Missouri where you are, you had a plentiful, or you had an abundance of refilling stations for it. But if you're coming out of Montreal and you got to go to Laredo, right? Those routes there, you may be hard pressed to find filling stations to be able to fuel your truck. And I think the other problem that they were saying they were having is that once that truck is loaded out at 80,000, you're loaded out and you're maxed out at 80,000. You didn't get the torque and the horsepower out of that engine that was required, say you would with the burn of a diesel engine. And that's just coming from the drivers. I can't give you a number on that, Donnie, because I don't know. I never spoke to any of the management or any of the ownership or anything like that. I do know that a natural gas vehicle will not give you the same horsepower. You take the same, let's just say you took a DD15 Detroit, right? And it's a diesel engine, and you took the same platform and you converted it to natural gas. And my diesel is running at 505 horse, even though you've got that maybe that natural gas engine, maybe it's set at 505. I don't think the burn and the combustion is enough to give you the horsepower and torque that you need. So they were actually losing horsepower, losing taking heavy loads like that. Yo, where's your Blue Jays hat? Evan, don't have one. I didn't even buy this myself. This was gifted to me. My brother gave it to me. But unfortunately, even living in Alberta, I'm not going to sit here and root. The only way I'm going to root for the Calgary Flames is if they make the Stanley Cup, and no other Canadian team does. But right now, Toronto's I think they're they're first or second in the Eastern Division. So they're going to be in the playoffs, and they're probably, you know, if they make the Stanley, it doesn't matter. Toronto's still my team. Toronto's still my team. Doesn't matter where I live. Toronto's going to be my team. I grew up in Toronto. I grew up in Ontario. Toronto's been my team since I was a little boy, even though in my lifetime I've never seen them win a Stanley Cup. Crunch, good to see you, man. What's going on? DD15 one box is $16,000. Yeah, my company truck needed it replaced. Those one boxes are freaking horrible. They are absolutely horrible. $16,000 for a one box. They thought it was a great idea to put all the emissions and all of that shit all into one system, right? Well, you know, you get a Kenworth, like you get a PACCAR engine, or you get a Cummins engine. If there's one component of your DPF that isn't working, you can either replace it, fix it, whatever, take it out, whatever. If something goes wrong within that one box, it can't be fixed. You have to replace the whole goddamn thing. And like Quinn says, $16,000. That sounds about right. I never had to replace mine. Luckily for me, I was very fortunate. My truck never, ever had emissions problems, short of replacing, you know, Quinn, simple shit like NOx sensors. You're going to be replacing NOx sensors, inlet and outlet NOx sensors. And what's the other biggest one is the EGR differential pressure valve sensor. That one there, I think I put one of those in. I put at least 2 inlet NOx sensors in, 1 outlet NOx sensor. So from the emission standpoint, that's really good considering I had that truck for 5 years. That is phenomenal. But yeah, you blow something in the DPF system having to do with your one box, forget it, man. You're replacing the whole one box. 16 grand. That was a bad move by Freightliner there. Plays on the freeway. Good to see you, my man. Damn good to see you. Are you pro Second Amendment? Pimp? Well, I'm a Canadian, so I don't have the right to bear arms. But you know what? If I was allowed in Canada, yes, I would. If I was allowed to carry, open carry, or conceal and carry, if I was allowed to do that, if we had that option in Canada, yes, I would. I'd be strapped at all times. So am I a pro the Second Amendment in the United States? Yes, I wish we had it here. Good morning, Stephanie. Good to see you. How the hell are you? OPP, yeah, I'm Canadian, but Pimp, you don't have to call him an idiot. He doesn't know if I'm Canadian or not. Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't have a clue. Alaska Hall, damn good to see you again, man. Always good to see you. Always a pleasure. Sure, dude. Just sprinkle fairy dust on everything and you'll make money. You know what? 25 years ago, it was almost that easy, OPP. It really was. You know, back 25 years ago, it was just a matter of hard work and determination, and you'd make money. Today, that is not the case, man. It does not work like that anymore. We are not if you're a truck driver today, if you are an a company driver, and you are making the jump to be an owner operator, you are no longer first and foremost a truck driver. You are a business owner first, and then you are a truck driver. If you go into it with the mentality that we had 20 years ago or 25 years ago, where you could just, you know, even as an owner operator, you could just get in there, put fuel in the tank, turn the key, and down the road you go. Those days are long gone. The fairy dust is long gone, man. Hit the like button, everybody. I do appreciate that. Hit that like button. I do. You don't drive anymore. No, Alaska. I retired, man. I retired from driving. I'm 55 years old, got a 35-year trucking career, almost 36 years. I'm done. I had enough. It was one of those things. It was one of those things for me where I'm still able to do the job, and I'm still able to do the job at the top level, right? I didn't want to get out of trucking because I had to. I didn't want to get out of trucking because I was broke down, I was tired, I was worn out, I was 70 years old. I got out of trucking, Alaska, because I wanted to go out on top. I wanted to go out while I was. So I didn't want to go out on my downward slide, man. And there's way too many guys. Alaska, you've seen these guys. You roll into any truck stop in North America, Canada, U.S., fucking Mexico. It doesn't matter. You roll into any truck stop and you're going to see these guys. You're going to see these guys. They park their truck, and the first thing they do is they throw their hands up on their steering wheel and they're like, ugh, and they're literally dying. I did not ever want to get to that point. Nikki Lee, good to see you, sweetheart. How are you? You haven't been live. You haven't been live in a day or so. What's going on? Come on, kick it on, get it going. What are you doing? No, he doesn't, Alaska. He just drives us nuts now. Well, you know what? Like I said, Crag Rat, I'm still at the top of my game, right? I'm still at the top of my game. I can still do it, whether I'm driving a truck or driving you nuts. One way or the other, I'm driving something. Why don't you pivot this channel to something else if you aren't driving? Happy Dude, that's a good point as well. Why don't I? Because right now in our industry, the influx of drivers coming in suck balls. And if you're a new driver and you're in here, I'm not necessarily pointing you yourself out. You might be a great driver, but for the most part, the higher percentage of drivers coming into this business right now as company drivers suck. They're absolutely fucking horrible. And it's not all their fault. It's not all their fault. When I came into trucking, and especially when I made the jump to owner operator, I had help. I had mentors. I had guys that I could go to. Even if it was a stupid question, yeah, they'd laugh at you, but they'd help you. We don't have that today. I was talking, I made a comment the other day on James Best because they were talking trucking over there, and it said all the teachers have stopped teaching. All the guys that were mentoring me are long gone. You look at guys like now my age that are 55 to 60. You look at there's me, there's Guard Dog in here, Freeways in here. Those are the guys now that are the mentors, but they're not teaching anymore. They're not passing it down. They're more and more of the old timers, which are now me, unfortunately, are looking at the new guys going, well, fuck that. I don't want no part of that. But by doing that and having that attitude, I'm hurting the business. We are hurting the business. You know, Chicken Hawk's in here. I know that he's here somewhere. He's another one. That guy's forgotten more shit than most people know about trucking. If you can tap into something like that, if you can tap into a guy like that and he's willing to give it to you freely because he wants to see you succeed, that's what we need to do. And that's what we need more of. There's very few guys out there doing it. Jeff Like is one of them, and he does it. In my personal opinion, I don't think he does enough of it. But you know what? He's a fleet owner. He's got his own business to run. He's got his own family. He's got his own life to live. He can't spend 20 hours a week on fucking YouTube teaching everybody how to do, certain things. And neither could I. But I think my channel is going to stay, transportation and trucking, because we're going to try to reach out and we're going to try to grab as many, if we can, these new kids and new guys. And I say it's not necessarily kids. There's guys coming into this business that have already had a 25-year career, retired from that, and now they're making trucking a second career. Let's help them too. Let's give them a shot, because by turning our back at guys my age and as experienced owner operators and experienced business owners and experienced truck drivers, by turning my back on these guys, I'm turning my back on the business, and I'm hurting the business. This business has been good to me. It's been rough on me. Look at me, right? It's been rough on me too. But it's been very good to me as well. So now it's my turn as somebody that's ending or winding my career down and ending my career. If I've got the time and I've got the energy and I've got the ability, and believe me, my mouth still works well. If I've got the ability, well, you know what? Let's pass on maybe a little bit of what I know, and maybe I can get other guys like Chicken Hawk and get his brain working. And let's pick one guy like me isn't enough to do it. But if you can get enough guys, because I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And like I said before, I may not know it, but if I don't know the answer to anything that you're asking, chances are I know somebody who does. Right. So that's how you set up a small little network. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. We are going to work with and help the fucking new guy coming in here who just thinks, who's been told, when he goes to his company and says, I don't want to be a company driver anymore, I want to go buy a truck, I want to become an owner operator. And the company goes, great, fantastic, glad to hear it. Go get your truck and everything, and when you're done, come back and see us. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. From a company level, any company that has a company driver, or any fleet that has a company driver coming to them to say, I want to be an owner operator and I want to stay with you and be an owner operator, that company should be busting its ass to help that guy make the transition, walk him through the steps, give him some pointers, help him out with the purchase, like show him not monetarily, but show him the proper way to purchase a truck, why you're purchasing it this way, leasing it, buying it, whatever. Okay, then blah 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 blah. Companies don't do that. Their stock answer is, great, go get your truck and come. And by the time the guy goes out, probably pays too much for the truck, getting fucked because he didn't spec it properly. Now he's got a truck that's not spec properly. It's an ugly purple color. He's not happy with it. And, he just thinks, okay, my first load, I'm going to New York. Great. I'm going to put fuel in my truck and I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to go. Companies now should be out there, because if you're helping these guys, all you're doing is benefiting your own company. You will not have the turnover. You'll have owner operators that don't feel the necessity to have to jump from company to company to company to company. And there's 1,000 fucking companies out there doing it right now. Or sorry, 1,000 drivers out there doing it right now. Owner operators right there. Every 90 days, fucking twice a year, 3 times a year, they're moving their trucks for pennies. Well, I'm only making $1.75 a mile, or whatever. I'm just making these numbers up. I'm making $1.75 a mile, but over here they're going to pay me $1.77 a mile. You're going to move your truck for 3 cents a mile? Are you out of your cut and pick in mind? So if we can get that aspect, or get that mindset for the companies to actually go, hey, wait a minute here, you want to make that jump? Great. What are you thinking? Tell me what you're thinking. What have how much have you got for your down payment? Nothing? Oh, well, you might want to think about this. How much have you got accrued sitting in the bank for your first year of business? Because you don't just go and buy a truck and then turn the key on and go, right? If you don't have any money in the bank as a cushion, you're screwed. So they should be asking you, well, how much of on the down payment? First of all, what's your budget for a truck? Da, da, da. We should be doing that. And that is why we're doing what we do. And that's why, even though I'm not driving, and I'm retired from driving, that's why this channel is going to stay the way it is. As an owner op leased to a carrier, I get paid after every load, which is pretty good. So you just get enough fuel. For that load. You know what, Russell? That's few and far between. There are a couple companies as owner operators. I know that, for example, now these aren't lease ops, but if you're driving for Mercer, I know that they pay you every load. You scan the bill of lading in, and usually with 3 hours, it's in the bank or it's on your card. Same with Landstar. I think there's a few companies, but up here in Canada, if you are leased on with a company, and I don't mean that I've ever been a lease op. I've never leased a truck from the company, but I've taken my truck and leased my truck on, or worked for that company. I think the average is usually every 2 weeks, or say it would be like the 1st and the 15th, or the 15th and the 30th. In my case, the last place that I was leased on, we got our statements got reviewed and paid out every Friday, which was fantastic. I love that. Chicken Hawk, did I miss Stephanie's guest appearance? No, she's here, but she never sent me the email. I couldn't send her a link. How could I do it? CNG sucks. Don't do it. CNG trucks also cost a lot more. You know what, Chicken Hawk, you probably know more than I do. I don't know a goddamn thing about CNG trucks. I do know that, okay, yeah, when what's natural gas? What's the byproduct of that? Pretty much nothing coming out of that pipe. He drove for a truck company called Davenport for the post office. That's how he got paid twice. One check from Davenport, the other from the post office. I'll take a gig like that, right? I'll take a gig like that. And for a short while, he had dual fuel trucks. Yep, CNG trucks are dogs and bum a lot of gas volume compared to diesel. I would think so, but just because you can't get the same you can't get them up to the same temperature as a diesel engine, right? You just can't do it. Natural gas doesn't burn as hot as diesel. It's a woke ideology. Well, I don't know. I think it was an ideology that came to pass or came to bear years before the woke movement or was ever recognized. So um, I know that their companies were, like I said, that company in Canada, Cat, they were experimenting with it probably backwards of 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, 2016, around there. The one box SCR was a great idea for the company that sells them. Oh, Chicken Hawk, they made a lot of fucking money, right? They made a lot of money. They really did with that one box. Um, but I think the demand that they get rid of it. I don't know what year. Somebody can Google it. Jason Rules is here, king of the Google, right there, man. Um, Somebody can Google it for what year did they take the one box out? I'm pretty sure Freightliner does not run with a one box anymore. I think they went back to the conventional way of doing it. People have no idea the little things that owner operators have to pay. And Guard Dog, if you were here earlier, you were hearing me just talk off. All I was talking, I just when I, just from the beginning, I was only listing off eight of the major ones, eight or nine of the major ones. Um, and that's, there's more than that. There are many, 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 many more. The response, or not the response, the numbers, the true numbers, and the pure numbers of what we are responsible for as owner operators, it's staggering. It's staggering, and they're creating more and more every day. They really are. What's going on, Tyke? Damn good to see you. You're sitting in customs in France now. Damn it, son. You do a lot of sitting around in customs. You really do. Craig Rat saying hi, 100%. Yeah, you guys are talking. Good to see you. What's the best way for me to get started in trucking? I'm seriously thinking about doing what my dad did. Dude, I already said it. Tennessee. Um, you know, go get your license. I don't know if you got your license. You can, in Canada now it's mandatory. You have to take a course. You got to go to school. You have to pass that course. Of course, you got to take your written test and your driving test with the ministry. And once you've got that, you're gonna. I suggest, and it's just, I'm not saying that everybody does it this way. There are cases. There are people that have actually come right out of trucking school and went and became an owner operator right out the gate, and they've been successful, and good for them. But the majority of people, the majority of, take that time, take the 3 to 5 years, learn some of the business, learn what you're doing, learn to drive, just get the wheel time, you know, just get the wheel time. You can't come out of truck driving school and have the wheel time to be expected for me to be able to dispatch you and send you to New York City. You just can't be expected to have that. Get that wheel time, get the miles. It takes the average truck driver, and this is just the average, it takes the average truck driver 8 years to hit 1,000,000 miles. So my suggestion is get anywhere between 3 to 5 years of driving experience. Get yourself, say, into that, 500,000 mile area, and then make that jump to owner operator, right? But again, make sure you're set up. Make sure you're set up. You don't just, you don't take $1,500, or you don't save, you don't buy an $80,000 truck, put a $1,500 down payment on it, and then you're making a $3,000 or $3,500 a month truck payment, and that's how you're going to do business. That's not how that works. Or that is how it can work. I don't suggest that you do that. I really don't. Chicken Hawk's knowledge rates are expensive. I would have to buy Whiskey Distillery to pay them. That's probably not enough either, really, to tell you the truth. Company driver is where the money and the opportunity is. I absolutely do agree. I do agree. I would never in my life right now ever go back to being an owner operator. If for any reason I decided to back into driving, it's not something I would do. I would not be an owner operator. I'm not, I don't want the hassle. I don't want the headache. I don't want the stress. I don't want the anxiety. I've had enough. Truly, I've had enough. If I was going to do something like that, it would be at a company level job. And for me, I'm never ever going to go back out on I would never go back out on the highway. If somebody wants to pay me $35 or $40 an hour to drive a local truck, and I'm out the door at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm home by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd maybe look at something like that, but no, I'm not. I would never do the owner operator deal again. My kids make me a thick glass of milk every week. It helps the work anxiety. Well, that works for you. Milk doesn't do it for me. New Rock. I can never say your name. Is it New Rock? New Rock? New Rock? I hate to insult anybody and say their name wrong. I really do. But up UPS $50 an hour overtime and a time and a half OT time and a half. Sundays and holidays are double pay, 100 an hour, easy money. Yeah, but go get that job. Go get that job. You know, the recruiting or the hiring department or staff at UPS, they've probably got a stack of resumes this thick on their desk, which is good for them because it enables them to pick through and get the best of the best. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that UPS drivers are the best of the best. I've seen, you know, I've seen UPS drivers going down the highway in a snowstorm and, you know, they got a set of wiggle wagons on and that guy's doing 80 in a fucking blizzard. Because why? Because he's got to get where he's going and push, 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 push. But they're not necessarily the best drivers. But with the amount of resumes and the amount of people that apply to get those jobs, UPS should take that time, and I'm sure they do. They go through and they pick the best of the best people that they want. Ever seen what DEF does to diesel fuel when it sits for a month? No, man. I've never seen that. Tell us, what does it do? It takes 10 plus years to make a million miles because we go so well. That's in Europe, right? That's in Europe, and that 8 years, Tyke, that's just an average. Some guys do it. Some guys do it in 6.5, 7. Some guys do it in 9, but the average in Canada is 8 years is what it takes to run a million miles. I graduated 2 truck driving schools, and Swift sent me OTR right away, and a total of 40 states. Well, Anthony, I'm like I said, it's not a written rule. There are people that are the exception to the rule. There are people that have gone right into truck, they came out of high school, they went to college or did whatever or bummed around for a couple of years because I think in the US you got to be 21 to get a commercial license. They turned 21, they went to school, they went to Swift. Swift will put you through school, but then I think they own you for 2 years or something like that. And then, yeah, okay, they'll send you out on 40 states, but they're going to train you, and they don't just put you through school and then give you the truck and go. I'm pretty sure that Swift and all the other companies like that, Werner, Schneider, Knight, all of those companies, they put somebody in the truck with you for a certain set amount of time, and you have to, that trainer has to go through a checklist, and you have to pass everything on that checklist before they'll pull the trainer out and give you the truck and tell you to go. Brian is an almond milk guy. I don't think in my entire life, dude, I have ever drank almond milk. I may have if somebody gave it to me and I didn't know what it was, but no, sorry, Jay. I'm strictly just a 2% milk guy. And I've even pussed out with the coffee cream. I took coffee cream out of my coffee a couple months back, and I'm just a milk and sugar. It's almost like I might as well be Tyke. I must be a teetotaler because I'm just a simple milk and sugar dude now. That's what I'm talking about, Anthony, right? That's what I'm talking about. You had a trainer for 6 weeks, and then they sent you OTR. But the 6 weeks that you were OTR with that trainer, I'm sure that trainer had a company approved or a company mandated checklist. Say, excuse me, week 1, meaning you, the trainee, you had to check off these 10 things within week 1. And then week 2, you had to be, and that way they would build you up to a level that by the time you were at week 6, you've checked all these boxes and they feel that you're capable. if you didn't pass, or if you didn't hit all the boxes and you didn't do that, I guarantee you, Swift would have told the your trainer would have let Swift know, going, okay, this guy's not ready yet, and Swift may have turned around and said, okay, Anthony, you need another 2 weeks. Your trainer feels you need another couple of weeks. So we're gonna give you another couple of weeks. This is maybe where you need assistance, or this is where you need to look at, you need to focus on, and maybe that's what Swift would do with you. But you got lucky, you went in, you did your 6 weeks, they handed you the keys to your truck. What is Swift driving now for company trucks? I think they got a mix of everything, don't they? The last time I saw them, I think Swift was purchasing the T680s. Not a bad company ride if that's what they're handing you the keys to, honestly. It's like any job. You need someone to bring you in. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, sometimes, you know what, brother, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Um, I think in trucking, it's not necessarily that, unless you're at the fleet level or owner level, depending on what genre of trucking you're in. For example, especially in Ontario, if you're a gravel hauler or something like that, and you're going in and out of the pits, or those positions are taken, and the only way you will get as an owner operator on with one of them is if you buy your way in, or you buy somebody else's spot, or if somebody else quits or dies or breaks down. And I've seen instances, especially out of Ottawa, where Lafarge is and everything. They got a couple of big gravel pits, and there's one up in Aberfoyle, Ontario, that those guys there, that when I retire, my spot stays secure and my son takes it. My son gets that spot if my son's driving. So you are absolutely correct. Man, I like being able to smoke putt now. You think, yeah, you mean pot now? Um, Good on you, Johnny. Good on you. I could if I wanted to. I don't have to pass any drug tests. I don't have to cross any borders. I don't have to pass any. I don't have to take any drug follicle tests. I don't have to do any of that anymore. So realistically, I could smoke pot. But as a lot of I don't. It's just a personal choice. I'm a recovered addict and an alcoholic, and I choose not to do any of that. So I don't drink. I don't do any kind of drug is stronger than an aspirin or a Tylenol. And that's just my personal choice. But if I was, say, guard dog, and I had run a 30-year, a 35-year or 38-year career like Dog did, and I was never able to smoke pot because of the rules, regulations, and I was subject to piss tests, and you're able to smoke a joint now, hey, roll it tight, light it up, and get it burning there, buddy. Get it burning. How did you go to college how did you go to college if you've been driving since age 19? How did I go to college? My college career, I finished high school. Well, I didn't finish high school, I'll be honest with you. I was merrily asked to leave high school, and it's something obviously I'm not proud of, because I have kids, and my kids, when they finished high school or when they were going through high school, how could I be an example to them? How could I be an example to them if I didn't finish high school myself, and it was very difficult. But back in those days, you're able to do certain things, um, you know, without an education. And here's an example. I've got my second oldest daughter. She was pissed off because she had to go to school, she had to get certain grades, she had to get an education, da 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 da, and that was part of the rules about living in our house. And she got all pissed off, and she turned to Dar one time, and she goes, "Well, look at Dad. Okay, look at Dad. Dad doesn't have a high school education. He never finished high school. Yes, you can go to college as a mature student, and I started out my college career as a mature student, but I didn't. I didn't finish high school. I didn't go da 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 the typical way." And she got all pissed off, and she's going, "We go on vacations every year, and we live in a nice home, and da, 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 we're driving nice cars. How is it?" But it was simply a different day and age back then, right? You didn't need to go to college. You didn't need to go to university. You didn't need to do a lot of the things that say that you do now, or even say that my kids needed to do. There was a lot of the kids that I went to high school with. They came, where I lived in Mississauga. We had the Ford Motor Plant right there in Oakville, not even 10 miles away from where the high school was. We had the GM plants. We had Hamilton's. We had the steel plants. We had a lot of industry, and there was a lot of guys and girls that I went to high school with, that I grew up with, and they came out of high school and they went right out into the workforce. That doing that today, that day and age is gone. You can't do that today. But here's the unfortunate thing about today. You can take a kid today. Let's say we've got a 17 or an 18-year-old kid right now, and they're finishing high school. They're finishing their grade 12. I don't know what it is. Is it grade 12? When we were there, we had to do grade 13, but now there's I think it's grade 12. So let's say they finish grade 12, they've got their grades, and now let's just say we have to say, okay, the kid wants to go to college. Now the kid has to come up with an idea. Hopefully throughout their high school career, they've come up with an idea of what career or where they want to go in a career, so they know where they're going to go for college or university and where they're going to apply. First of all, you're looking at some serious expense these days, right? My kids, all had, well, I think the exception of one, but the ones that went to college had college fees. I know I've still got one daughter still paying off student loans. So and then when you finish, let's just say you do a 2, 3, 4, 5 year, you go become, anything in the medical profession or anything like that, you get anywhere into, and you got a 5 year or 4 or 5 year, and then you got an internship or anything like that. You're coming out of there with some serious debt. And unless you're in the medicals, if you're in anything else, like if you've got a fucking bachelor's degree or you're an arts major, which I don't even know what that is, honestly. Really, I don't even know what an art major does. But if you've got a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or something like that, what are you applying that to? There are more kids these days that have, gone through high school, got really good grades, did really good in high school, went to university or went to college, finished college and finished university, but they're working at Starbucks, and they're riddled with 20, 40, 50, 30, $100,000 worth of school debt. Back when I was there, a lot of us didn't. We either went right from the school, right from high school, right into the workforce, or we went into a trade. A very high percentage of the guys that I knew, that I associated with back in high school, they all went into the trades, right? And I think for today's day and age, that's probably one of the safest bets as well too. Go into trades. Carpenter, electrician, especially electricians, cribbers, framers, anything like that. And then if you can get into, say, a specialty, like you can get into become a master electrician and get into commercial work, where you're not doing houses, you're not wiring people's houses, or it's not Mike's electrical shop, and you're not walking, you're not doing light fixtures and shit like that. You get into commercial work where you're doing skyscrapers and large bills and stuff, and large buildings and stuff like that. Then you can make now you will, if you're good at what you do, you're going to make very, very good money in a trade. Again, so like I said, electricians, construction, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, you're going to work in the cold. It's going to be chilly. Things like that. We had more options back then. Today, it's unfortunate. Three-way saying the Teamsters. Well, I can honestly tell you, lucky for me, I never worked for a union shop. I've never in my life ever worked for a union shop. I've never been unionized. I've always worked, any company I've ever worked for has always been non-union, non-unionized. There was a time, probably about 14 or 15 years ago, I was working at TransX, and the talk was coming in that they were going to unionize, and then they had a select group of guys that were sort of like, I don't know what you call them, what, the stewards or whatever, and these guys that were working at TransX were talking to the union to come in, and there was supposed to be a big union meeting, and we were all supposed to go to it, and we were all the drivers were supposed to talk to the union reps, and they were going to try to sell us on getting unionized. And I wanted no part of that. And I'll be honest with you, I blew the fucking whistle on it. My wife at the time, I wrote out a script of what I wanted her to say. And I said, okay, at this time of day, you're going to call this number. You're going to talk to this gentleman. I want you to read word for word what is on here. Don't answer any questions. And when you're done, hang up. And she did. And it blew the whistle because I don't know how, but apparently the management didn't have a goddamn clue of what was going on. Yet these guys were about to, all the drivers, company drivers, even the owner operators, they were all going to be jumping on board with this union. And all of a sudden things changed. I won't say the guy's name, but Louis Talani is who owned the company at the time. It's owned, TransX is owned by CN now. They got bought out, but Louis Talani owned the company. And he, the general manager of the facility in Mississauga that I was based out of, I don't even care if I say the guy's name. The guy's name was Peter McDonald. And he got that phone call from Darlene about this is what is going on. And I guess he made one phone call to Louis. Louis turned around and, what do they want? And next thing you know, all the drivers are brought in, all the dock workers were brought in, everybody was brought in. And they said, okay, we know there's a union coming on. What do we need to change? And that's all it took, right? A lot of things changed. The wages changed a little bit, but I think it was the benefits that really changed. The overtime process changed. A lot of things changed that we wanted and we got. So, but at the end of the day, that's a long answer to your short question. I've never worked for a union shop. I don't know. You drove them for 24 years and you would do it all over again. Not me. Starbucks pays more than some college graduates. Starbucks pays more than some college graduates? I don't kind of understand that, but Starbucks, I don't know what, I think the minimum wage in Alberta here, I think it's 15 an hour. I think it's 15 an hour. So if you're working at Starbucks, you're making a minimum of $15 an hour. I think Ontario, is 17. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. You think I should know because all of my kids at some point or another were working for Tim Hortons. None of them ever worked for Starbucks. But they all took their turns working at Tim Hortons, Wendy's. I don't think any of them worked at McDonald's. But so they were all doing, while they were in school, they were all working minimum wage jobs. Teamsters have been a disappointment for some people. Again, you know what? It's not an area that I'm really, really up to date on or familiar with. I never ever worked for a union. I know that they at times the Teamsters, I don't know if they're still the biggest. I'm assuming they probably are. And they could sway votes one way or the other. And when it came to the trucking or construction or anything like that, you couldn't get anything done unless you went through the union. I know that they had power and they had say and they had heavy influence. I'm not sure how that is today. I've never worked for a union. I don't think I would ever work for a union. I don't see. Somebody in here wrote, the thing went by and it said it breeds laziness. That's kind of the way from what I've seen standing on the outside looking in and how it breeds. Yeah. You can take a lazy fucking guy and that guy literally has to commit murder on the floor, in the warehouse or wherever it is. That guy literally has to commit murder on camera with 10 witnesses before he's going to be fired. The union will protect, the lazy. They're not the same anymore. Yeah. They were powerful when they were with the mafia. You know what? that is a common knowledge thing, that a lot of the unions were run by or backed by, or actually the unions backed some of the mafia. The unions backed a lot of politicians. I know that sort of was the case. I don't know if it is today. There's, for all we know, that the mob has still got their hand in it. They could still be dabbling in it. Who knows? I don't have a clue. No union is powerful when a company closes their doors. Happy dude, that is 100% true. And it was one of those things that Louis Tellany, the owner of Transex, when this had happened, he out and out said, "I will shut the doors and board the windows on that terminal, on the Mississauga terminal, because it was only the Mississauga terminal we were based out of that was going to go unionized. So then the unionization would go from there to Winnipeg to whatever." But he said he would close the doors on Friday and open up as something else new on Monday and fire everybody and just rehire. He was so dead set against it. We don't have unions that much now. We have the labor board, but happy dude. What is the labor board done for you lately? I've never have I ever? I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever had to take an issue up with the labor board. Um, I know I've worked for, been within a company, and that, somebody has said, this sucks, and if we don't get our shit together, they don't get their shit together, we'll take this to the labor board. I don't know what kind of power does the labor board have. Are they able to come in and shut down if there's flagrant of violations, health concerns, or anything like that? I'm sure the labor board and the health board would probably get together and they come in and shut a company down. But short of like a flagrant violation, the labor board probably it would be more of a complaint department, right? I don't like how this company does this. I don't like how this company does that. I'm going to go talk to the labor board, and the labor board will listen to you devoutly, and they'll nod in all the right places and go, mm-hmm, yeah, okay, yep, okay, yeah. And then at the end of that, whatever gets done. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Starbucks pays $18 an hour, even in Alberta. You know what? That's not a bad wage. $18 an hour. Well, it's not. Don't get me wrong. $18 is not a great wage, because every time they raise the minimum wage, they also raise the cost of living. So, when you were making when minimum wage was $15 an hour, that's just these numbers aren't true. I'm just using these as an example, but let's just say when minimum wage was $15 an hour, your cost of living, let's just say your rent was $1,200 a month. Well, now that they've raised the minimum wage to $18 an hour, your rent is now $2,100 a month. Or when you were making $15 an hour, you can go buy a cheeseburger combo for $5.95. At $18 an hour, that's now $11.95. It's a simple, that cost gets passed on somewhere. If you're the younger generation, you're thinking, oh, this is great, I'm making $18 an hour. You don't have anything to fall back on to think, well, that $18 an hour, yeah, but the cost that is your cost of living, because that $18 an hour went from 15 to 18, that cost of living or that jump in a wage increase has also jumped the cost of living as well. So are you really coming out any farther ahead? The only people that can say yes to that are those people that are, say, living at home with mom and dad. They're not paying rent. They have minimal expenses. Maybe they're chipping in for food, whatever like that. And yeah, sure, that'll help them out, a $3 an hour increase or something like that. But for the average person, say you've got a two-income family and they're both making, $15 an hour, which comes out to $30 an hour, which is probably the wage that you need two people each to be making nowadays. A two-income family of $30 an hour just to pay for, the cost of living these days. Government jobs also have unions. They do. And if you work for the federal government or you work for the provincial government in Canada, they are all unionized. They are all unionized. Mr. B, is good to see you, man. I notice a lot of complete morons in unions. The only reason they was even employed is because they was in a union. Yeah, again, there's people probably working in a union or working at a company that's unionized that probably, if they were working at any other company somewhere else, they'd have been long fired for, insubordination, poor workmanship, poor work ethic, can't do the job, blah, 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 blah. What they'll do now with a union is, if you get hired to do a job and you're a complete clusterfuck, they'll just move you into another area and get somebody else to do that job. But the union will protect you. Some things in life are unfair, Mr. B. You know what? You're absolutely right. Happy dude, you're absolutely right. My grandfather, used to tell me and my brother and all of the cousins, and you guys have heard me say this before. Life gives the test first and the lesson later, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. There's no lesson here. You get the test first, and then if you get the lesson afterwards, and that is just a quick. That's life. PBA in New Jersey, police officers making up to 250,000 a year. Well, you know what? And if you were in New Jersey, you're earning your $250,000 a year. I come from. My dad was a cop. My dad was a Metro Toronto cop. He was a Toronto cop for 31 years. And you know what? I don't begrudge the cops back then, or I don't begrudge the cops now. And doesn't matter whether you're in Canada, the US, or what. If you're working in a lot of these major cities, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, New York City, New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, Baltimore, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago. If you are a cop working in any of those places, pay them whatever they need. I would not begrudge them if they were making $250,000 a year, because the life expectancy on any one of these people is probably a lot shorter than yours and mine. Starbucks sucks donkey ass. It does. There's only one thing that I drink from Starbucks. There's been the odd time when I was trucking that I'd be in the US and I wanted coffee in the morning, and the only thing I had was Starbucks. The only option I had was Starbucks. So, I would take just whatever their regular coffee is, no mocha, frappa, clappa, whatever, just their regular coffee. I'd have to put a shit ton of sugar into it and a shit ton of cream into it just to drink it. But every once in a while, I think I had one a couple of weeks ago. I had a caramel macchiato. They're not bad. They're super, super sweet. So it's just something to, you know, pick off that sweet tooth that I have and take it, but I don't drink them regularly. That, and I'd have to start selling. I'd have to start selling my possessions to be able to be able to afford that. People want. Okay, here. You guys write this down. I'm actually gonna agree 100% with something that Jason Rules is saying here. People want more purchasing power, not higher wages. That is absolutely correct. But Jason, how do you get more purchasing power? Right? What controls what controls in the world? What is controls what is the controlling factor of what your purchasing power is going to buy you? Right? You can be making a $15 an hour, and if in today's day and age, it sucks. So where is your purchasing power? So basically it's inflation, right? The rate of inflation and the rate of the cost of living is rising faster than the wages are keeping up. So they do this like this, and the cost of living is going up. So then they go from 15 to 18 bucks an hour. So they close that gap. But then the rate of inflation, the cost of living starts going up more, because all of those costs have to be passed on, right? And that sucks. I don't have an answer to this. I'm not an economist. I'm not. I'm sure there's somebody in here that's an economist or a brilliant, or they have an idea, much better idea of how this works than I do. But I agree 100% with that, and I'm one of those people included. I don't necessarily need to be making $200,000 a year. I would like the money that I do have to have better purchasing power. I'd like to be able to get better value for the money that that I do have and that I'm spending. Hope somebody wrote that down. They raised the minimum wage and then they cut the workers' hours down to part-time. Well, that's dirty pool, and they've been doing that. Caps Nuts USA, that's absolutely. That goes on as well. And there's companies, you can see it everywhere. Guys that be going, okay, they'll be working in a place and they're making 16, 17 bucks an hour. They get a raise to 21 bucks an hour, and they went from a 40-hour week down to a 30-hour week, right? So now 30 hours is be considered part-time. So now the company doesn't have to pay your benefits. They don't have to pay any of the da 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 da. And what are they doing? They're actually they're getting their money back for the the rate increase. So if that $3 an hour from 15 to $18 an hour, the company was pissed off. Well, you know what? That company's going to get that $3 an hour back. How? They're going to cap you at 30 hours a week, and they're not going to pay for your benefits. They're not going to pay for any of the extra shit that they would pay for as a full-time employee. There are companies out there that have nothing but part-time employees now. Why? Because you can hire, okay, so instead of working a 40-hour week, we're going to hire two people. One guy would do a 40-hour week. Now we're going to hire two people to do 20 hours a week, or say 22 hours a week, right? And we're going to pay them part-time wages, and we don't have to cover benefits. We don't have to cover health insurance. We don't have to cover fucking jack shit. And that's what they're doing. From a business standpoint, from the company's perspective, not a bad idea. Do it, but you're going to be looked at as dirty pool. And the whole idea was to get people off of Medicaid. Well, we don't have Medicaid in Canada. Our health system works significantly different than yours. They say that we have free healthcare, but we don't have free healthcare. Yes, it means if I break my arm and I go to the hospital right now, do I get presented with a bill when I leave? No, I don't. Right? They'll set my arm, they'll put it in a cast, whatever, and I go along my merry way. I don't get a bill, but I pay more in taxes than the average people in Canada. We pay more in taxes than the average country, and our tax dollars they're supposed to cover that. That is why when the Americans say, "Oh, Canada has free healthcare," well, that just means we don't get a bill. Somewhere down the line, you're paying for it. It's when you get the big ticket items. If you have a massive coronary or a massive stroke, and you go in and you have open heart surgery, the bill on something like that is I don't know what it would be. Let's just say it's $500,000. If I was in Canada, would they give me a bill for $500,000 for that? No, they wouldn't. In my lifetime, am I going to contribute $500,000 into the tax system? Yeah, probably. Raising the minimum wage isn't going to increase the cost of living. That's a myth. The U.S. has repeated as an excuse to keep the minimum wage at $7.25. And how does that benefit anybody? $7.25, right? Exactly. That doesn't benefit a single soul. Unions are crazy. People are crazy. People say they're necessary, but I've never seen them have to be necessary. Again, this is obviously this is an area that is not my expertise. I've never been in a union. I've never worked a union. I've never I've never even had to deal with a union. So I really don't know. Are they necessary? I don't think so. Trucking, there's a lot of trucking companies out there that are very, very, very successful, very, very, very profitable, and there's no union in sight. There are factories and companies that run, factories and plants and warehouses and everything. None of them are unionized, and they're all doing very, very well. Their people are happy. They're paid decently. They're happy. They get their vacation. They get their da 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 da. So, is a union 100% necessary? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Is that including overtime hours? I make hold on, sorry. I make 30 an hour. I'm barely making ends meet. I'm a mechanical designer. Bruce, like I said earlier, in today, like living where I live, it's a little bit cheaper than say where I was when I was living in Ontario, but I live in a whole different province, and but even if you're living in Ontario or even out here, if you're a young couple and maybe you've got a kid and you might have a couple of cars in the driveway, and you're probably renting your house, because I don't know anybody at the age of 20, between the age of 25 to 20 to 30 right now that can afford to buy a house. You need two, and there's two incomes. The mom and the dad are both working. Both of them got to be making 30 grand a year. So how you're doing it as a single income by yourself, I don't know. First of all, Bruce, are you a single person? Are you carrying, are you supporting a wife? Do you have kids? Do you have child support? All that kind of shit, there's a lot of factors to that, but yeah, $30 an hour for a single income, you're going to struggle. You're really going to struggle. Yeah, being a cop, there's a lot of danger in there, even more of than as there has been. I absolutely agree with that. Who would be a cop these days? Not me, Elizabeth West. I agree with that 100%. I saw, first of all, I saw the lifestyle and what it did to my father, and I had an uncle that was a police officer as well. I saw what it did, the toll that it takes on not just the mind, but on the heart, the soul, the body. It's fucking horrible. Now, today's day and age, the cops have a whole more options for help and support. They've got assistance programs. They've got this. They've got shrinks, at an arm's length away. Whereas the cops back when my dad was, the first 20 years of my dad's police department, my dad came on the police department in 1967 or something like that. The first 20 years of his career, the only help they had was at the bottom of a bottle of rye or a bottle of whiskey. Today's day and age, I would not want to be a cop. I really, truly wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be a cop in Toronto or Montreal or Chicago, New York City. Are you out of your mind? Give your head a shake. Most cops on these days, most cops on the take these days, I don't agree with that at all. I don't. I think that I think there are obviously corrupt cops, but I think there's still at the low end of the percentage. That's not the other way around where most cops are on the take. I don't believe that. I can say from personal experience, I've dealt with cops that were absolute douchebags, but on the other hand, I've dealt with cops that went out of their way to take care of me or whatever the situation was, that I was dealing with when the cops were involved. So I've gone from both ends. Are they on the take? No, I don't think so. I think it's on the low end. I think it's not on the high end. The starting pay for a police officer in Bergen County, New Jersey varies by department, with recent reports showing starting salaries in Bergen County Sheriff's Office at 48,241 as of mid 2025. For $48,000 a year to be a cop, I don't think I would do it. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I would do it. Correctional officers, while overall police officer salaries in the county averaged around 63,000. Well, you think about this. If you're a cop, at least you're out on the street and you can move around. If you're a corrections officer, you're locked in there with them. There's even a higher rate of, something going wrong with you or something that's going to happen to you, or the danger level increases. No, you're probably not going to get shot or shot at. Probably, I'm saying, right? If you're a corrections officer. But I know if it was me, if I was a corrections officer, I would have eyes in the back of my head. I would not turn my back for a minute. Mr. B's OT, I think regular pay in Garfield is around 150 after 5 years. You know what? That could be. You know what? Again, these salaries, I don't begrudge any of these cops getting any of these salaries. I really don't. If you're working at a police department and the population of the town you're in is 1,500 people and there's 10 cops, and okay, the cost of living is obviously much lower and whatever like that, and you're making 50 grand a year, that's one thing. What I'm talking about is if you're in a metropolitan city, right? Like I said, New York, Toronto, Chicago, Montreal, Atlanta, New Orleans. You want to be a cop in New Orleans? I challenge any of you guys. Any of you guys think that you got balls the size of fucking, bowling balls? Go strap on a gun belt and put a badge on and become a cop in New Orleans. I dare you. America is corrupt. Consumerism has killed it. Wes, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? It's the only question I can ask you. Whose fault is that? Got some horses coming. Got to go. All right, Johnny. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for being here, brother. I do appreciate it. Same in Germany. In my state, supposedly that's not legal, but they get away with it. Well, it's just because it's not legal doesn't mean that they don't get away with it. On the other hand, think about this. How many people walk around on a daily basis and do things that aren't legal, but they get away with it? It goes both ways, depending on what it is. But all the child support that I was paying was interest, so it wasn't going to the kids. You know what? Child support is oh, sorry, I'm done paying child support and got some of my money back from being over. That you very rarely hear of. I paid child support for years, and I always, in both instances with the two different moms, I always took them to court. I always fought for the right for to see my kids, but I also used the government. The government has something called FRO. It's called Family Responsibility Office, meaning that I would get them involved because in Ontario or in mostly in Canada, there are charts. There's a scale. You make this amount of money, this is the child support you pay. You got one kid. If you make the same amount of money, you got two kids, you'll pay this amount of money. And that way there was no bitching, no confusion, no nothing around. And I would get FRO involved, which was involved with the court, and then it would just automatically, I would pay it every 2 weeks or every month, and it would just automatically come out of my bank account. So as my pay went into the bank, it came out automatically. That way, the mother, either of those mothers, could never come back and say you didn't pay child support. I got receipts right here every month that shows that I paid child support, and that was always me wanting that. I always wanted to make sure that it was always on the level. And as my salary increased, so did the child support. As my salary decreased, so did the child support. Now, that didn't say that I wasn't on the hook for extracurricular activities, right? I would have to pay X amount of money a month for the kids. And I took a keen interest on where that money went and what she was spending it on. In some cases, you know what? One of those mothers wasn't living that well. She was living in social assistance housing and this and that. And if she had to use some of that money for the rent, well, that's fine. That's keeping the roof over the kids' heads. I didn't begrudge that. But if there was a couple of times I walked in the door and I'd be dropping the kids off, or I'd be picking the kids up, or if I showed up or I made a phone call and said, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, I want to pick the kids up and take them out for lunch. And then I went in there and the place looked like the party just went on and there was bottles laying around and shit all over the place. Then I would speak up and say something. I'm going, I hope my money ain't paying for that. But on the side of that, I was also on the hook for extracurricular activities, school trips, not vacations, the school trips. Like if they want to enroll in soccer or hockey or anything like that, I would be on the hook for a minimum of 50%. And in one case with one of the mothers, I would be on the hook for all of it because she just didn't have the money to do it. My other ex, she had the money to be able to do it. So I wasn't on the hook. I'd be responsible for half. That was on top of what my regular child support was. And I didn't begrudge paying it. I didn't. So basically, they're ripping me off out of my wage, and I lost cars and I've lost my house rental. Child support is one of those things that I'm telling you right now in Canada, if you get the FRO involved, like I did. Now let's just say I defunct. I went, fuck this. I'm not paying support. I'm out of here. That child support keeps accruing. Even if I'm not paying it, right? The Family Responsibility Office, they keep calculating it every month. And eventually they eventually get the court involved. And let's just say I gotta get a job. If I gotta work somewhere, as soon as I get a job, well, my company that I'm working for as a company employee, they take your you need a SIN number, your social insurance number, you're registered to work, so you're paying your taxes. Now the court and the government recognize, okay, and they just come in and they start taking your paycheck, right? You'll be thinking on Friday you're getting a paycheck and it says minus 20 or something like that. That's what they do. Once the government and the court gets involved, it can get absolutely ugly. Myself personally, I never fell into that. Like I said, I didn't begrudge. I had no problem going without at times to make sure that the kids had their shit, that the child support was. And I'll be honest with you, I never ever wanted to mess around with the child support system. I never wanted to mess around with the courts. I never wanted to mess around. I always had the courts involved, and it was for my protection. And believe it or not, it did come back to help me, because there were times where my two oldest kids, who were with my very first wife, their mother, said some shit, and it's like, your father didn't pay support, right? Because they weren't living in the best conditions. Well, you know what? The kids were led to believe that they weren't always, dad wasn't always paying support. And you know what? I've got it all. It's all receipted. It's all documented. It's all here. And eventually enough was enough when the kids were old enough, and I'm talking about into their 20s. And, one of them finally brought the subject up and said to me, going, you know what? Mom says you never paid child support, and and our lives were hard, and and then it's like, you know what? Here, bam. Those are the years that I was required to pay child support to your mother, from this year till this year. There it is. You go and show me that I didn't pay child support. And I shut it down. I knew that eventually it would come back and save me, and it did. Thank God. Every time you go to catch a number for child support, the state gets 45 grand from the federal government. Holy shitballs. So it's to their best interest to lock you up and give you as many numbers as possible. Well, it's kind of funny. I don't think it works like that in Canada, but what they do is they start by, like, they don't put you in jail right away. So what they'll do is, let's just say you go a couple of years without paying child support. Or not even a couple of years. It won't even take that long. What they'll do is they'll suspend your driver's license. So now you're driving around your vehicle, but you've got no driver's license. So now that means without no license, you can't renew your insurance the following year, because so now you've got no license, and da 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 da. So they'll start with your driver's license. Then they'll try to dock your pay or dock your money like that. They can revoke your passport. There's other things that they will do before they will lock you up. But at the end of the day, if they're crippling the guy, now let's just say the guy hits hard times, and this happens too. The guy hits hard times, and after he's been paying for 5 or 6 years, and he's on time, and then he misses a couple of payments, and so now there's a backlog, or there's back support, and then he's only able to pay a partial here and a partial there, whatever. He gets laid off. Well, who knows? There's a thousand reasons, right? And now he's got FRO, and he's got the court, and he's got the government breathing down his neck, going, okay, well, now you're like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 behind. Well, now we're going to suspend your license. Well, now that poor bastard, who's trying to do good, he's trying to get caught up, he's trying the best he can, but now they're kneecapping him. So what, they're going to take your driver's license for the good guy that's trying the best he can to get caught up and to help his kids and to pay the support. He doesn't want to be in arrears. He does care, but they're going to kneecap the guy. They're going to take his license, right? Or they're going to take his entire paycheck. So what? They expect the guy to live in a box, in a park, and go to work every day, and just go to work every single day so you can take his pay until the point of it's all paid back. Now, they don't take your entire paycheck. I think they're only allowed to take a certain percentage, but still, if you're only making, say you're only making $20 an hour, and they're taking 10 of it, you living on $10 an hour? No, you're living in a Maytag dishwasher box in a park. I guarantee you. I live in Atlanta. I have a house, a car, and a child. Then you are working hard, dude. You really are. My hat's off to you. Hopefully you're doing all right. And in this day and age, it's almost sad that I say, you're probably not doing well, but hopefully you at least got your head above water. You're not fucking drowning. If nowadays that's where the bar is. People aren't getting ahead anymore. It's the norm now that you're just treading water. You're just keeping your head above water. And you're not drowning. So child support, hold on. Sorry, Rodeo. What's that? The government seems to unable to increase purchasing power without centralizing the economy and redistributing wealth through heavy taxation, replacing meritocracy with enforced equity. That is a freaking mouthful. That truly is a mouthful. but you think about what is I don't know, Rodeo, where you're from, but in Canada, what was the last big thing that hurt our economy that the liberal federal government did? What was the last thing they did? If you're a Canadian and you're in here, Jason Rules, you're still in here. I see you're still here. Well, don't Google it. You should know this. What was the last thing that the Trudeau government did that absolutely crippled our economy? It crippled uh, it just it crippled our way of life. It set so many people back because it increased interest rates, it increased the cost of living, it increased everything. What was it? Anybody? Consumerism is good. Actually, it is if everybody, if the proper amount of taxes is is being distributed to the proper place and they're being used properly. Still not cleared customs. Bummer. Dude, I'm going to be done this live before you're done in customs. Well, I don't have to pay child support anymore. My youngest daughter is 23. So, my youngest daughter is 23. My oldest daughter is 33. I don't have to worry about paying child support. Believe you me. And, for the one, two, three, four, the four youngest ones, I never had to pay child support for anyway because they all lived with us. So the only one I ever had to pay child support for was the two oldest ones. Um, and those obviously, like I said, the oldest one's 33, the next one down is 31. So you don't get to choose where the money goes. It does overall. It does to overall. It goes to overall expenses. Okay. You don't get fro involved. That's not how it works. It's automatic. Well, maybe it is now. Okay, maybe it is now. Maybe if you and your wife go to, you divorce or you separate and there's child support, maybe that's how it's done now. Back then it wasn't, right? When Fro was getting involved with my two oldest kids, that would have been, in the mid 90s. Um, yeah, mid to late 90s. So Fro back then, I had the option. I could just pay child support or this or that, or if she wanted to drag me into court and make it mandated that I have to pay child support, then Family Responsibility Office would get involved. But I never let it get that far. I'd go first. It was basically it was a protection for myself. Do you want to know how many baby daddies have owed me money for diapers? Well, you know what? To a degree, Tyrannus, I'll be honest, I've been in that boat. Because two of two of my children aren't biologically mine. They came with my partner, and their father vanished when they were babies. So they were raised with me, and I'm all they know. That's how they grew up. They've always called me dad. They've always known me as their father, and that's how it is. But yeah, that baby daddy that took off and ran away, that son of a bitch probably owes me at least $500,000 worth of education, diapers, Barbies. The dollar figure is probably staggering of what he owes me. And funny enough, the son of a bitch resurfaced a while ago, and he came back. He fucked off out of Canada. He went down to the United States where they couldn't touch him. But as soon as he stepped foot back in Canada, they jumped on him. They jumped on him. He came back up here and he tried to get a job. He tried to do everything. And Fro was all over him because at that time, what they owed or what he owed after almost 17 years or 16 years or whatever it was of child support, the number was, I think the number was around or just below $100,000 for the two kids that he had. And then he owed money on child support for another kid. And when he came back to Canada and he started working, they nailed him. And then of course he quits his job and then vanishes again because he doesn't want to pay child support. So um, that's just a side note, a side story. Is it moral to steal money, tax wages, to pay it to someone else? I say no. Is it? You say no? What do you think? Can we steal money? Is it morally? Are you morally able to steal money? What do you think? Now she shuts up. Sometimes it's cheaper to keep her. I've been on both ends of that freeway. Sometimes yes, sometimes fuck no. And sometimes it's just better to come to a common agreement and both go your own ways. Um, Even government workers are paid with taxes, so they're not net payers into the system either. I never thought of it in those terms. Trucking, Tyke. I never thought of it in those terms. Do we have gypsies? If we got them, I haven't seen one. Tell you honestly, relationships are like yard sales. They look good from 20 feet out, but upon closer inspection, it's a bunch of trash somewhere is ready to pull out pull out onto the curb, put out under the curb. Um, yes and no. Yes and no. I've I can't say that I've had a shit ton of in say the last 20 years or 25 years. I can't say that I've had a shit ton of relationships because I haven't. Um, but have I had in the past, like when I was much younger, have I had, yeah, I've had train wrecks, but I've had some relationships that were good. I've had, some extended long-term relationships that at times were good and some other times were a train wreck. Um, dude, it's called life, I guess. It's also the effort and the energy that you want to put into it. And it's also the effort and the energy that you get back. It can't be one-sided. If one side of the party is only participating and giving effort and putting forth the effort and energy and everything like that, and they're getting nothing back, well, then what happens? Well, then you're going to go your own ways, and it may not be a happy part. So I've been party to both of them, and I've been responsible um, for my part in several of them where maybe I was not the person paying the closest attention or being the most attentive. I've been guilty of both. I've been on the side where, yeah, I'm the person that, and I'm not getting enough back, and I've been guilty of being the person that maybe wasn't putting forth the effort either. It's not easy to say that, believe me. They printed money. Happy dude, you got it. That was it. The biggest thing in the last couple of years that has absolutely crippled the Canadian economy and crippled the Canadian way of life and crippled our GDP and crippled everything was exactly that. The Trudeau government turned around and printed money and basically started giving it all out. And what did that do? Stop torturing that cat. Hey man, my hands are right here. The cat's, come on, she's a 21-year-old cat. Okay, so in people years, she's what, close to 100. I'm telling you honestly right now, happy dude. When you are 100 years old, nobody's going to say jack shit if you're wandering around screaming and yelling at the top of your lungs. They're just going to go, "Hey, there's a happy dude," right? There you go. I'm trying to find sorry, Robert. Tax and tariffs take money out of the economy into the control of useless government dimwits. Well, that is a true fact. Some of it, Robert, let's admit, some of it does get used for appropriate funding or tax or your tax dollars or your tariffs or whatever get used for appropriate things. But there is a portion of that that they are just wastefully either giving it away to other countries, giving it away to useless programs, just giving it away. So yeah, I can certainly agree with that 100%. I'm trying to find a way to make passive income. I've tried various methods. Now I'm trying to sell digital organizers. Um, Passive income. Become a pimp. I'm just kidding. Don't become a pimp. You can't even be a pimp anyway because most of these girls now are online. You can order a girl. You can order a girl like ordering a pizza. You don't even have to go find a hooker these days. You can order a girl like people get on your phone 30 minutes or it's free. She's at your door. Passive income, it's, you know what, it's a very good idea. It was advised to me years and years and years ago. I think at one point my mother-in-law had suggested it to me. I think Ronan had suggested it to me years ago, and it wasn't until only lately, I mean very lately, that I have investigated and done something about it. Um, but yeah, I'll be honest with you, I wish that I had listened back then, especially to certain people, like my mother-in-law, smart woman. She knew what she was talking about when it came to dollars and cents. I should have listened a little more carefully, instead of having the mentality of, oh well, I'm still young. In my late 30s, or I'm in my early 40s. I got lots of time to make money. Well, bullshit on that. I dropped the fucking ball on that one. So passive income, you're trying to sell digital organizers. That sounds like work. It's passive is supposed to be passive. Invest your money in gold and silver. That's passive income. Um, Invest your money in certain commodities and this and that, and let the ROIs on those become passive income. If you're having to sell something, if you're trying to sell something, then you're still working. Um, or if you can if you can build it to the point where somebody else is running it for you, and you're sitting there. If you can do that, well, then and you can just reap the benefits of that, well, then fine. That's why Trump was cutting government staff. But if they're too useless to do anything in the private sector, then how will then that will affect the economy. Eh, you know what? What can you do? What can you do? Robert, it's one of those things, right? You can stand on the top of the mountain and scream your head off, but who's listening to you, right? Especially when it comes to government funding, government money, taxation, tariffs. Who is listening to you? So what's happening in here? I was just making a comment on the fact that uh, your mom is years and years and years ago had given me some advice, and I didn't take it, and I really wish that I'd had. It's not that I need to up my viewers. I took a strike on the channel a week ago, so I'm in YouTube jail right now. So my algorithm took a kick. Um, yeah, AI OnlyFans. It takes a lot of time and upfront work. You know what? OnlyFans is something I've never thought about. It's not an option. It's never something I've ever wanted to do, or you know, I don't know. I can't think in those terms. That's not you can't use fucking OnlyFans as a passive income. Realistically, I don't know what the dictionary's version of passive income is, but when I think of passive income, I think of either an investment or an opportunity where I have put money in, and it is either working for me, the investment is working for me, and at some point or another I'm getting a return on my investment, and that money coming back to me either on a monthly basis or on a yearly, quarterly, or something like that. That is like considered passive income. That's what I think of when I think of passive income. I don't think of passive income as being a pimp standing on a corner and you got 25 girls out there working, and you're making money off of them. Although, yeah, I guess that could be passive income, but that's not what I think of. Passive income for me is something where I'm not out there actively pushing something or trying something or working something. It's something that, and that's just my own opinion on it. I don't know what the dictionary says, or what the actual definition is. People should always have one source of income. And if you were here earlier, we were talking about, what it takes, literally what it takes for a family income. You basically need mom and dad working. Whereas when I grew up, my dad was the earner and my mom stayed home and took care of the kids, and she took the occasional job here and there, right? She took the occasional job here and there to help with this or help with that. But back then, when we were kids, it was a one person income and all the bills got paid, the mortgage got paid. Nowadays, um, it just doesn't happen. You cannot survive on that. We've got our buddy right here, Bruce, going like he makes $30 an hour. as a single income, and he's struggling with $30 an hour. Now I'm not saying that I know what all his expenses are. Maybe his expenses are out of control. Maybe he's spending money for, being silly with his money. I don't think he is, but it could be that every person that complains they're broke, if you took 10 people and lined them up and said, and then they all were going, I'm so broke in this economy and I can't survive. Maybe fucking, 6 out of them are working hard, killing themselves and are honestly struggling. And the other 4 are just jerking themselves off. That's just kind of the way I think about it. But again, I obviously don't have any, numbers on this. I've never done the investigation on this. When money is sent overseas, they can't send dollars a pound. They create a liability. A liability. Sell it to a bank and then issues the currency of the receiving country. Right. But here's the issue with that. Let's just say, Tyke, you're in Great Britain. So let's just say Great Britain is opted to send $1 billion to the Ukraine. Right? They don't literally truck up. They don't regularly take a billion, literally take $1 billion and put it in a big fucking crate, put it on a plane and send it to the Ukraine. They do exactly what you're talking about there, right? It gets sold basically from one bank to another, from the currency from one country to the other. But what is that money? Once that money makes it to the other country, what are they doing with it? And are you ever going to get a return on that? A lot of the politicians, I guess, would like to say, yeah, eventually we're going to get that money. You will never see. I don't know what the number is. It is staggering. Whatever the United States has sent to the Ukraine, you're into the billions. You might even be into the trillions. Do you people in the United States as taxpayers ever think that you are ever going to see a penny of that money come back to you, or that it's ever going to come back to the United States in the form of currency? In the form of currency. Do you think it's ever going to come back to you? I don't think so. You might see it come back maybe in the form of, if the Ukraine has oil, or if they have gas, deals, negotiations may be made in those terms. But the people of the United States whose tax dollars got spent, who need that money, right? They need that money to fucking live. They don't need that money in the form of Ukraine's natural gas or their oil. They would rather have don't send the money to Ukraine and keep the money within the United States. And the same thing happens in Canada, just on a much smaller scale, because we're 1/10 the population of the United States. Then you shall future taxes pay the liability back to the bank, bastards. Have your regular job and a second way of making money on the side. And that was some of the best advice. That was some advice that I was given. And did I listen to it at that time? No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't. I would actually be much better off, and this advice was probably given to me 12, 15 years ago, and then given to me again probably a few years after that. And if I would have listened to it then, say even 15 years ago, let's go back as far as maybe only 15 years. If I'd have listened to it, say 15 years ago, and had something in place that had been going and then investing or whatever like that for the last 15 years, I'd be even in a better position than I am today. And it's like, am I paying a price for my own ignorance and say my own ego and pride? Absolutely, I am. Why can't why can't the receiving country print their own money and have their citizens pay back? Because a lot of these countries, you think about, and I don't know any countries, Robert. I can't say that I know a country by name that does or doesn't do this. But let's just say the tax dollars that are generated by a country, say by like Ukraine. I'm just going to pull it out of my ass because it's the name we're using. The tax dollars generated by the population, the general population of the Ukrainians, is probably fucking jack shit. Robert, you and 10 other people in England probably make more than that. You don't, but it's ridiculous the amount of tax dollars. So they're not in a position. They can print as much fucking money as they want, right? And what are they going to have? They don't have a reg to back it up. They don't have gold to back it up. They don't have oil and gas to back it up. Nobody would take it seriously. No other country, Ukraine, and again, we're just using this as an example. Ukraine could say, okay, we're going to buy this, or we need these from Canada, and okay, we'll pay you the $2.2 billion it cost. And Canada's going to go, okay, show me your cash. Well, okay, we've got the cash. Well, where did you get the cash from? Well, we fucking printed it. And Canada's going to go, well, then it's worthless. Why would I take it? Right? That's why they say, okay, well, they tell you, they tell us, well, we get it back in trade, or we get, but there's certain countries out there that we're not getting jack shit in trade, but we're giving billions of dollars to. What are we going to get back in trade? Again, I'm not an expert on any of this, right? I'm not. This type of income allows for financial stability and flexibility, enabling individuals to pursue other interests while still generating revenue. Thank you. That's probably the textbook definition of what passive income is right there. Jews are teaching U.S. taxpayer money. What? Are leeching. We're not going down that road, man. Like, we're not trashing anybody here. Much love from Canada. Thank you. Well, this has been fun, but I'm off to go to my second Scottish beach walk. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you later. Have a great day. Enjoy your walk. Watch out for lifting kilts. What do you say? A passive income is an income that you're not trading time for. Love this. Okay, here's another really good definition of, such as a digital product, affiliate marketing, or ad revenue. There you go. So here would be passive. Here would be probably a good version of passive income, right? Now, this isn't the case. Don't get excited and get all horny here. But let's just say I had a channel with 1 million subscribers. The ad revenue that would generate from that, from having 1 million subscribers on this channel, would be technically considered passive income. Yes, I'd have to put out videos, and yes, I'd have to put out content, but I'm getting ad revenue. That would be good. Stone, nice name, man. Hey, are you a trucking channel? For the most part, yeah. We started out this live 2 hours and 15 minutes ago, and for about the first hour, we talk trucking, we talk numbers, we talk math, we talk all of that kind of shit. Anything and everything we talk about in trucking. Not to say that I know everything about trucking, because goddamn it, I don't. But I know a lot of people in this business, and like I've said, if I don't know the answer, I can probably find it for you, or at least I know somebody who does. But then after usually about the first hour and a half, whatever, we just kind of open it up and the comments go, and we just kind of bounce off the comments here. And today we've had a lot of really good comments. We've had a lot of really good conversations. It's been really enlightening. I've learned a lot today, believe it or not. I've learned a lot today. Oi, mate, what's up? Elvin, good to see you, man. I'm in my CDL training course this afternoon. I was wondering if you had any tips for backing up a tractor trailer. I've been struggling with the offset back a little. Okay, first thing, when you're backing up a tractor trailer, take your time. Regardless who's watching you, you're going to pull into truck stops and you're going to go get in your spot, and for a fact there's going to be 75 fucking guys all sitting there, behind the wheel of their trucks, because they just parked and they're sitting there looking at their phones, and they're going to be watching you. Don't give a damn about them. Take your time. When you're backing up a trailer, hopefully you're either in a Cascadia or you're in one of the newer trucks that has the bigger mirrors. Depending on what you're doing, you want bigger mirrors on it. Obviously, use your hood mirrors. They will help you. But I will be honest with the best way to learn how to back up, either regular back into a backup spot, or if you have to blindside into it, is during the day. Like, once you get your license and you're able to do it, and you're able to drive during your day, when you got to take your 30-minute break, try to pull into a truck stop and go to the back of that truck stop where there's a fucking 1,000 empty spots. Put a couple of road cones at the corners on each side of the line, and just practice, man. Practice makes perfect. Absolutely, practice makes perfect. And there's no trick. For me, I'm one of those visual guys, right? When it comes to like backing and learning to back up, I had to watch somebody do it, right? I had to watch somebody do it, and then I got the chance, and then they'd walk you through it. Okay. For me, it was always described. Sorry, I got to take this off. I'm sweating to death. For me, it was always described as you do a lazy S. Okay. Meaning that if you're going in in your regular side, so you're backing in driver's side, it's a lazy S. So you come along, right? You're moving along. So your parking spot is, oh yeah, your parking spot will be over here. So this is your parking spot here. There's your empty spot. You're going to come along like this, and then you're going to go out like that, and then you're going to go like that. And when you do that, your trailer is going to kick out and partially align so that you're kind of on an angle, back this way with your parking spot. And then you will put it in reverse, and you will slowly bring the wheel around, the nose around of the truck. And as it comes around, the back front of the trailer comes around, and you will usually go in straight. No, if you get it right on the first time. But at the end of the day, take your time. Even if you're in school, they will appreciate the fact that you're not trying to rush, right? Don't rush. Don't be in a hurry to back up. You bust something, you trying to save yourself 20 seconds of time or a minute of time and taking out the fucking hood off that Pete next to you. You'd rather have the 20 seconds than the bill that Peterbilt's going to cost you to fix it. Take your time. Slow and easy wins the race when you're backing in. You do not have to be in a fucking hurry. There is no hurry. If you get into a real tight truck stop, or you get into a real tight position, and you have to do the, 2 or 3 times to get yourself lined up, then take it 2 or 3 times to get yourself lined up, man. Basically, take your time. Don't be in a fucking hurry. There are several different ways to get yourself lined up for the spot. I used the old school way because that's just basically the way I was taught to do it. And for me, it was just the easiest. Do a lazy S, go up, and then by the time you finish with the lazy S, the nose of your truck is pointing almost straight the direction you came, but the back end of your trailer is already on an angle to go into your spot. And all you have to do is just kind of ease it like that, and your trailer will go right into the spot. And if you got to make a couple of corrections, it's easy to do, but take your time. Is a long nose Peterbilt? Well, you know what, Stone, that's fine. Just remember that those things are the steer axle is right at the front, right? They're not like the Freightliner Cascadias or anything where they got the setback axle on the nose of that truck or on the steer axle. So that truck is sort of like the International, what is it, the 9900i or whatever, the Coronado. The steer axle is right at the front. So now you have to give yourself that extra probably 8 to 9 feet, because the nose of that truck is not going to come around as quickly. You literally need a football field to turn one of those things around to do a complete U-turn in a truck stop. So just remember that your nose swing, you have to start turning and cranking a lot sooner and a lot harder, because the nose swing is going to be a lot slower coming around, and you'll oversteer, and you'll end up not jackknifing the trailer, but you'll put the driver's side of the trailer into the passenger side of the guy that you're parking beside. Why? Because the nose of your trailer just isn't coming around fast enough to get you straight. But the good thing is, if you can master that, if you can master back in a W9 in with say a W900L with a long nose, or the 389, 379 Pete's, or any of those, if you can master back in those sons of bitches in, backing in a Cascadia is like a walk in the park. You get into a Volvo, you can do that with one eye, shit like that. But I guess, again, at the end of the day, is take your time, do it right. Whew, look at Walter White go. It would take approximately 5,479 years to pay off $20 trillion. If you paid $10 million a day, assuming there's no interest. Well, what's the U.S. Robert? I don't know what it is. What's the U.S.? There's actually somewhere in I think it's New York or wherever it is. There's a fucking clock, or not a clock. There's a meter showing the national debt. and it's in the trillions. I don't know what that number is. I don't know. Somebody could probably Google the shit out of it and find out what the U.S. national debt is at. What is that, like $5 trillion or $15 trillion? I don't know. I don't know. Those numbers to me are staggering. I remember being young and you'd be thinking a million was, you could win $1 million and never work for the rest of your life. If you were an average Joe right now and you won $1 million and you had a mortgage, say you owned a home and you had a mortgage and you had a couple of car payments and da $1 million you can't retire on after you pay your mortgage, your cars, and all your shit and any debt you've got. You might be able to put a couple $100,000 away, but you can't live on that for the rest of your life. Absolutely take your time. I tell this to my wife in her small car. I don't care how long it takes. Just take your time. Yeah, exactly. I'd rather you take a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to get into that spot than do 15 or $20,000 worth of damage to another vehicle or your own. And you see it all the time as well. You'll get some guy that's some cranky old bastard that's been out. He's dying to get in because he has to get to he's got to get up to the buffet and get his dinner, and he's got to have his shower, and he'll lay into the horn. Come on, let's go. And he gets on the radio. What the fuck? No, no, no. Ignore it. Ignore it. Do you know how many times I've been sitting there and I'm watching some kids struggle trying to get into a spot, and either I'll get out and help them or I'll guide them. I'll stand at the front. Okay, a little more. Okay, stop. Okay, bring it forward. Okay, stop. And if I didn't get to him, somebody else got to him. I will sit there with my CB mic in my hand, knowing that this kid's going to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to get this in there. Some asshole's going to start chirping. And you know what? As soon as he does, I key my mic and walk on him. Right? Just take your time, man. Absolutely take your time. I'd rather see anybody take 2 or 3 minutes and get it in nice and straight, nice and safe, and no damage done. Trust me, that doesn't mean that you're not going to ding up equipment. Right? I've never smashed my own truck. I've never had that kind of damage, but I've dinged a trailer. I've dinged this. I've done. Passenger side. I've taken a trailer door off on the passenger side. Right, went out, opened the doors, latched the door on the passenger side, latched the door on the driver's side, came around, got into the truck, start backing up. Didn't realize the passenger door latch had come undone. So instead of it being secured to the side of the trailer, it was actually perfectly straight out. So when I looked in my mirror, I couldn't actually see the door because it wasn't swinging. It just looked like it was a continuation of the trailer right into the dock. All I felt was the thump and then the thump when I hit the dock. And I knew exactly when I felt that first thump what had happened. I looked in my mirror and there was the door. I had the trailer door pinned perfectly, just like that, going across the dock door. The guy on the dock opens the fucking door and there's a door sideways going across his dock. I'm like, sorry. We're all going to have it. It's not a matter of if you're going to have a little ding here and there. It's when you're going to. You tax the billionaires instead of cutting the taxes. Bruce Wayne, how can you tax a billionaire that doesn't declare an income? Fucking Elon Musk does not declare an income. And if he does, he declares an income that's like what? It's some regular guy in a factory type shit. Elon Musk makes more money on his debt. That's how he makes his money. He doesn't make money on an income. Billionaires, none of these billionaires have exuberant billion-dollar, million-dollar salaries. Those are the guys that you can try taxing the shit out of them if you want, but good luck with that. If you've got enough to get us straight in front of your parking spot slot, get your cab just past the slot, start turning, and when you back your trailer, it allows you to see the truck. And exactly. If the more room you have, the better off you're going to be. The better options you've got. And what I mean by that is the options you've got is if by chance you oversteer, you've got enough time to correct. You've got enough time to make minor corrections and everything like that. The more room you have. If you get into a real tight spot, and it's happened to every single one of us. I've not been afraid ever to get out of my truck. I'm in a position I can't quite see what this, and I can't say whatever. I'll pull the brakes. I'll put it in neutral, pull the brakes. I'll get out, walk around the front of my truck, look, do the, okay, yeah, all right, carry on. I've done that. Another trick I picked up years ago was most trucks now have bunk windows. Take the curtains off your bunk window when you're backing in, depending on which way you're going. You can blindside a Peterbilt into the back into a spot as long as you get yourself set up properly. Because instead of looking in your mirror, you're looking over your shoulder like this, and you're actually looking out that window. And that window, as long as you can see from that window, as long as you can see the back of your trailer, you can back that trailer in. That's just, that was, I didn't make that up. Some old guy showed me, gave me that tip, and it works, right? Whenever you're backing in somewhere, make sure you've got the covers off your bunk windows. That's a free tip. The next one, you guys are gonna have to send a $29 super chat. Are you the one whom I asked how many hours a day you have in your country? Well, I don't know. I got 24 hours a day in my country. I don't know what country you're from. Tighten up and you'll be lined up with the slots. You can back in seeing both sides. Exactly, Tyke. But at the end of the day, Robert, you've been doing this longer than I have. You've been doing this when you're talking about the new guys that are just learning, right? The end all be all, or the main thing is, do not be in a hurry. Take your time. You will learn the angles. You will learn the intricacies, but take your time and learn them. Right? Don't be in a goddamn hurry, and don't let peer pressure or let any other driver or some guy chirping on the radio, or if you're still in school and you're learning, and don't let there's 5 other students, and just because he did it in a minute and a half means that you have to do it in a fucking minute. It just means that you have to do it. Right? If you're in school, they just want to see you do it. They don't care if it takes you 30 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute, 30 seconds. Just remember that. And it doesn't matter that your peers are standing there watching you. Don't worry about that. I've got 23 hours and 56 minutes in my country. Well, where did you lose the other 4 minutes there, Bruce? I'm curious to know where those other 4 minutes were, because you know what, dude? If you let me know where they are, I'll go get them. I'll take those 4 minutes all day long, dude. I'll take those 4 minutes. Billionaires don't own anything for the most part. All their money is in trusts offshore, or it is, in their companies, right? Come on. We'll just, again, just use Elon Musk. He doesn't take a salary, but all of his wealth is in Tesla shares, stock, fucking SpaceX stock, whatever companies that he owns, or he is the CEO of, or if he is the president, whatever. He doesn't take a salary. All of his valuable money, or all of his income, is paid to him in ways of shares. And then he takes dividends of that. And the dividends, in a lot of cases, depending on how it's used, is not taxed, right? It's a dividend. Some cases it is, but not in all cases. Anyway, my cat's asleep. My dog's asleep. Come here, Charlie. No, he's sound asleep. I'm starving. It's I don't know what time it is. It's 10:15. We're gonna have a short one today. We've got 2 hours and 30 minutes done on this, so we're gonna do a short one today. Appreciate you guys. Bruce Wayne, man, nice handle. I'm assuming that's not your real name, but do me a favor and subscribe. And I'm not doing this because I want your subscription. I'm telling you to subscribe to the channel because I like what you're saying. I like what you talk about. I like that you get common sense. You make good comments, and so far today, I actually learned a lot, right? It's not always here for me to tell you guys shit. It's for me to sit here, and I learned a lot of really cool things today that I didn't know. I actually came to an agreement with Jason Rules today. I actually agreed with the guy about fucking something. Who knew that day would ever come? So with that, guys, you know what? Tyke, get yourself out of customs in France. Just know that I'll be there in May next year. If you're still sitting in customs in May, I'll stop in and throw you a couple bucks and maybe a cheeseburger. But other than that, man, you guys, I really appreciate your comments. You guys did a good job. I'm sorry we didn't have more, but like I said, my channel took a strike, and I'm kind of in the no books of YouTube right now. So when we get rocking and rolling and cracking again, when that strike lifts, we'll be all right. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna go eat. and I'm gonna have a drink, and I got a couple of chores I got to do, and I do have to go look at something else. You know, what you guys were talking about, passive income. I got to go. You know, I got to go take a look at something. So with that, guys, we'll take it easy, and we'll see you tomorrow. Today is Monday. We will see you. No, today's Tuesday. Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow, being Wednesday. All right. You guys be good, man. Good seeing y'all. Thanks for being here.